Chapter 718, Falling Sky Valley, 2, Wait for half a month? Yi Qingtang did not have time to waste here. Furthermore, the Falling Sky Valley's assessment was very complex. There would be more trouble if she had to go through the assessment. Yi Qingtang said immediately, I'm very determined today. May I know whether I can enter first? Xiong Feng frowned slightly. However, before he could say anything, Yi Qingtang suddenly took out a pair of boxing gloves. The gloves were made of unknown material, but it was shining under the light, making it extremely eye-catching. Xiong Feng opened his eyes wide as he saw the gloves. Scorching sun gloves? Xiong Feng recognized the gloves instantly. The scorching sun gloves were made of pure gold, an extremely rare material. Even the Falling Sky Valley might only have a few weapons made of that. The scorching sun gloves would take half a year for forging masters. The price one had to pay a blacksmith would be unimaginable, not mentioning the price of the pure gold. Xiong Feng had seen one of the Tiangang sect elders wearing the scorching sun gloves before. His fist was able to break mountains and overturn rivers. The power was insane. He longed for that all the time. However, the scorching sun gloves were priceless. Even if he had the money, he would not be able to find one. Furthermore, he did not have that amount of money. Xiong Feng's sight was immediately fixed on that pair of scorching sun gloves. Xiong Feng's reaction was totally captured by Yi Qingtang. A smile flashed across her eyes, and she handed the gloves over to Xiong Feng. I have heard that your 8-direction fist techniques are outstanding. As people say, heroes must be paired with the best swords. I think this pair of scorching sun gloves match with your fist techniques well. Yi Qingtang smiled and said. Xiong Feng held the pair of scorching sun gloves, and his heartbeat accelerated. He thought that the Liuan pill that Yi Chen gave him was precious enough. However, he even had the scorching sun gloves for him. This is inappropriate. Xiong Feng held the scorching sun gloves tightly, but he was still being polite on his words. The scorching sun gloves are only suitable for a strong person like you. If they fall into normal people's hands, their potential will not be expressed as well. Yi Qingtang threw out a lot of pretty words that made Xiong Feng feel contented. The Liuan pill and the scorching sun gloves were precious, but Yi Qingtang did not feel pity for them at all. She acquired these things from the disciples' corpses in the hell of Avisnaraka. Besides these two, she still had many precious things from all the sects in her space ring. Yi Qingtang really gained a lot from the hell of Avisnaraka. People would be surprised by any few that Yi Qingtang took out. Then he'll accept them. Xiong Feng smiled and said. He kept the scorching sun gloves, and his sight was getting gentler. Young brother, I see that you are in a rush. I will help you to ask the elders in the valley. If you have the ability, it should not be a problem for you to enter early. Xiong Feng was easily convinced after receiving such heavy presents. Furthermore, he guessed that Yi Chen came from some renowned family clan. If not, he would not be able to offer such treasures like the Liuan pill and the scorching sun gloves. Since he was a disciple from a big family clan, his foundation should be pretty good. Yi Qingtang looked at Xiong Feng's blissful expression, and her smile deepened. Indeed, Xiong Feng's character was exactly the same as in her previous life. As long as he was fed fully, it was much more convenient for him to do things. Yi Qingtang immediately said, Thank you, Warden Xiong. May I trouble you to refer me to the Valley Master, please? What? Xiong Feng was excited over the two treasures at hand but could not help but be shaken when he heard Yi Qingtang. You want to meet the Valley Master? Yi Qingtang said, Truth to be told, I've long heard about the current acting Valley Master of Falling Sky Valley, perfected Xianxin, and have looked up to him for a long time. If I can become perfected Zuanshan's disciple, it will be my honor. This time, Xiong Feng could not smile anymore. Little brother, this is a little hard already. Our Valley Master has not accepted a disciple for many years. Even if you look up to him, I'm afraid it will be difficult for you to get what you want. Xiong Feng originally thought that Yi Qingtang merely wanted to enter Falling Sky Valley as soon as possible. Thus, he agreed to her request. Given Yi Qingtang's situation, there should not be any problem in gaining an elder's approval and be permitted to enter the valley. Yet, unexpectedly, The person she wanted as her master was actually their acting valley master, perfected Xianxian. Ever since their old valley master was heavily injured and was recuperating, perfected Xianxian became their acting valley master, and his position in Falling Sky Valley was naturally different from before. Moreover, he had not accepted a disciple for many years, and many geniuses who wanted to become perfected Xuanqian's disciple were all rejected. Little brother, it's best if you don't think about that. It's alright as long as you enter Falling Sky Valley, but as for our valley master, you can forget about it. Xiong Feng accepted many things from Yi Qingtang and could only persuade her instead of being too tough. However, Yi Qingtang had made up her mind long ago. The purpose of coming to Falling Sky Valley was to become a disciple under perfected Xianxian. She did not say anything and retrieved an armor from her space ring straightforwardly. Once that armor was taken out, Xiong Feng was giddy by the sight. It was a dark green armor with golden fine lines all over the armor which sparkled under the sunlight, extremely eye-catching. Xiong Feng could not notice anything else at that moment as he was in a daze by the shining armor. Golden Moon Armor. Xiong Feng naturally heard of the name of this armor before. If the Scorching Sun Gloves was a valuable treasure, this Golden Moon armor could only be described as rare. Do you like this Golden Moon armor, Warden Xiong? Yi Qingtang said with a smile as she watched Xiong Feng's reaction in satisfaction. Of course I like it. Xiong Feng nodded repeatedly and was only short of gluing his eyes on that armor. If you can refer me to the Valley Master, regardless of whether the Valley Master is willing to accept me as a disciple, this Golden Moon armor can be considered as a fee for your hard work, Yi Qingtang said generously. Xiong Feng was about to tear up from the agitation. He had only seen this Golden Moon armor in paintings and had never thought that he could lay his hands on it. It was only possible for such a treasure to be possessed by someone at an elder level, and a warden like him did not even have to think about it. What exactly is this fellow's background? First the Lu Yuan pill, then the Scorching Sun Gloves. And now, even the Golden Moon armor is out. Could she be Ouyang family clan master's illegitimate child? Chapter 720. Apprenticeship 1. Yi Qingtang was not an illegitimate child of the Ouyang family clan. This Golden Moon armor was merely found from a super sect elder's space ring when she was in the hell of a Visnaraka mystic realm. Although this item was good, it was too large for Yi Qingtang, and there was no way she could wear it given her size. Furthermore, given Yin Yang Perfected Lord's current half-step Yin Yang Perfected Lord state, this item was not a must either. She was just offering a present provided by others to achieve her goal, and this was the true value of the Golden Moon armor. Xiong Feng hesitated. He indeed wanted this Golden Moon armor very much, and what Yi Qingtang said earlier caused his heart to waver. There's no issue with helping to refer you, but you also know that our Valley Master has not accepted any disciple for a long time. If you want to become his disciple, I reckon that it's not so simple. I've already said that regardless of whether it is successful, this Golden Moon armor is yours, Yi Qingtang said readily. Xiong Feng clenched his fists secretly. Yi Qingtang had already put it that way. If he refused, wasn't he a fool? Alright, I'll help you to refer him then. As for whether the Valley Master is willing to accept you or not, it will be up to you. Xiong Feng finally succumbed to the temptation of the Golden Moon armor. Furthermore, this fellow had already said that it was dependent on his skills whether he could make it or not, and he only needed to refer him, which was nothing much. This fellow has so many treasures, and he must be from a pretty powerful background. If the Valley Master sees her, there should not be any issues either. He'll have to trouble you then, Warden Xiong. Yi Qingtang bowed with a smile as a glint flashed across her eyes. This was the outcome she wanted. All right. You'll follow me into the valley now. I'll bring you to meet our Valley Master. Warden Xiong kept the Scorching Sun Gloves and the Golden Moon armor in his space ring cautiously as an indescribable satisfaction filled him. If the Valley's disciples were all like this little brother Yi Qin in giving away things so extravagantly, wouldn't his life be extremely sweet? Yi Qingtang brought the little white tiger and the silver wolf into Falling Sky Valley. The scenery before her made her recall the various incidents in her past life. Images of her cultivating with her senior brothers and sisters in Falling Sky Valley popped up in her mind continuously, and the figure of her master lingered in the deepest corner of her memory. Very quickly, Xiong Feng led Yi Qingtang to a hall. Xiong Feng paused outside the hall and turned to look at Yi Qingtang. Valley Master is inside. I'll enter the hall and speak to him. Wait outside here. All right. Yi Qingtang nodded. Looking at the hall in front of her, she could not help but recall images of her listening to her master's teaching inside the hall. After giving the orders, Xiong Feng walked straight into the hall. A silver-haired senior was seated in the central seat of the hall. Although that senior's hair was all white, his features did not seem aged at all. He stroked his long beard gently as his deep-set eyes were focused on a scroll on the table. A handsome youth stood beside the senior. When Xiong Feng saw that senior, he immediately bowed and greeted. I pay my respects, Valley Master. I have something to report. Perfected Xianxun looked up slightly and was not in a hurry to speak when he saw Xiong Feng, who entered suddenly. Indifferently, he handed the scroll on the table to the youth beside him. Yan Shu, send the scroll to your eldest senior brother later. Yes. The youth nodded slightly, received the scroll, and stood aside. Then, Perfected Xianxun turned to look at Xiong Feng. What is it? Xiong Feng said, Valley Master, there's a young man outside the hall who wishes to meet you. Perfected Xianxun looked down slightly. Who is that? Why does he want to meet me? Xiong Feng deliberated for a moment and replied. That young man's name is Yi Chen. He has looked up to you for a long time and begged me to meet you. I saw that he was sincere and honest, and thus I came to report. Xiong Feng did not dare to directly tell Perfected Xianxun that Yi Qingtang was here to be apprenticed to him. Perfected Xianxun did not have any reaction, but Yan Shu from a side frowned when he heard Xiong Feng, and he looked at Xiong Feng with dissatisfaction. Everyone in Falling Sky Valley knew that Warden Xiong was the greediest. How could an ordinary young man meet the Valley Master of Falling Sky Valley just because he wanted to? Xiong Feng naturally knew about this logic as well. Yet he still came to report this. Looking at him, it seemed that he had accepted many good things from the person. Otherwise, he would not do such a thing. Yan Shu was dissatisfied but did not dare to say anything as Xiong Feng was a warden, and it was hard for him, a disciple, to argue with a warden. Yan Shu looked at Perfected Xianxun and felt a little stifled. Ever since his master became Falling Sky Valley's acting Valley Master, there was quite a lot of noise in the valley. Apart from the Valley Master, there were Peak Masters, and his master was originally a Peak Master as well. After the old Valley Master was severely injured, his master was given the acting Valley Master position. When his master became the Valley Master from a Peak Master, the other Peak Masters were dissatisfied. They showed outward devotion but opposed him in secret. To establish peace and harmony within Falling Sky Valley, his master usually made his disciples given to disciples from other peaks. As Perfected Xuanxun's disciple, Yan Shu listened to orders. He was very accommodative to others in the valley and did not stir up trouble. Xiong Feng saw that Perfected Xianxun did not reply after a long time and added on immediately. I saw that the young man is pretty gifted and relatively sincere. He holds great admiration for you. That young man is waiting outside the hall right now. Are you willing to meet him, Valley Master? He is already outside the hall? Perfected Xianxun said slowly. Perfected Xianxun replied. Forget it. Since he is here already, let him in then. Xiong Feng was delighted when he heard that, but he did not dare to show it on his face. He responded immediately. They'll bring him in now. Perfected Xianxun nodded. Xiong Feng immediately exited the hall. As Yan Shu watched Xiong Feng leave hurriedly, his brows furrowed slightly. He looked at his master hesitantly, wanting to say something. Outside the hall, Xiong Feng approached Yi Qingtang with a smile. Little brother, the Valley Master has agreed to meet you. However, I did not tell him that you're here to be apprenticed to him. You should think of how to tell him when you meet him later. Thank you, Warden Xiong, Yi Qingtang said. Xiong Feng laughed. You're too polite. It's also because I saw that you have pretty good natural talent and didn't want it to go to waste. Yi Qingtang smiled without saying anything. However, the little white tiger aside puckered its lips. What pretty good natural talent? It should be pretty good bribes instead, isn't it? Alright. Follow me into the hall now, said Warden Xiong. Okay. Yi Qingtang nodded slightly and let the little white tiger and silver wolf wait outside the hall while she followed Xiong Feng into the hall. Chapter 722, Apprenticeship 3. In the hall, there was no change in emotion on Perfected Xuanzhen's face as he looked at the young man who entered with Xiong Feng. Valley Master, this is the young Sir Yi who asked to meet you, Xiong Feng said respectfully. Yi Qingtang looked at Perfected Xuanzhen's familiar face, bringing back memories from her past life. When she fled away from Xianling sect, she was in dire straits for a long time. In a heavy downpour, Perfected Xianchen stood under the pouring rain and stretched his hand out towards her. Yi Qingtang stored all the memories in her heart and held back all her emotions. Taking a step forward, she bowed to him sincerely. Yi Chen greets Perfected Xianchen. Perfected Xianchen glanced at the young man before him. This young man appeared extremely modest and respectful, and it was just that he had a rather slim frame. Yan Shu frowned at Yi Qingtang and subsequently looked at Perfected Xianchen, who nodded slightly at him. Yi Chen, what are you meeting my master for? When Yi Qingtang saw the cold-looking Yan Shu, there was no annoyance but rather a trace of a smile in her heart. Senior brother Yan was indeed the same as back then. In her previous life, when Yi Qingtang just entered Falling Sky Valley, Perfected Xianchen ordered Yan Shu to help Yi Qingtang familiarize with everything in the valley. When they first met, Yan Shu was cold, but people who knew him were aware that he had an extremely good character. Not only was he deeply respectful towards Perfected Xianchen, but he was also very protective of the fellow disciples under his master. When Yi Qingtang entered the valley, Yan Shu often took care of her. He was the epitome of a cold face but warm heart. Yi Qingtang said, I've looked up to you for a long time and wish to be apprenticed to you as I cultivate. Perfected Xianchen and Yan Shu were both taken aback by Yi Qingtang's words. She was actually here to become apprenticed. Yan Shu clearly did not think that the young man would actually have such a request and was dumbfounded for quite a while before responding. You wish to become a disciple of my master? Yes. Yi Qingtang nodded. Yan Shu's frown deepened immediately. My master has not been accepting any disciples in recent years. Yan Shu did not have a favorable impression of this young man before him. The reason that this person could see his master was probably because he bribed Xiong Feng. Although Yan Shu knew that bribery was common among powerful forces, he was extremely repelled from it due to his nature. Where exactly did this fellow jump out from? Did he really think that he could become a disciple of his master after bribing a Falling Sky Valley warden with some random things? God knows how many people in Nine Nights Dynasty wanted to be apprenticed to his master, but all of them were rejected no matter how outstanding they were. Where did this person get his courage from? Yi Qingtang did not reply to Yan Shu as her eyes were locked right on Perfected Xianchen, who had not spoken a word. Perfected Xianchen remained silent for a moment and said, I'm not accepting any disciples anymore. Please return, young Sir Yi. Although he said it briefly, one could faintly hear a trace of impatience in his tone. Upon hearing Perfected Xuanzhen's words, Xiong Feng had an expression which read, indeed so. Although he accepted quite a number of benefits from Yi Qingtang, he did not help to say anything at this moment. Anyway, he had already told Yi Qingtang about it, and it was she who persisted in becoming apprenticed to Perfected Xianchen. Yi Qingtang did not back down and spoke. There's no need to reject me so quickly. I prepared an apprenticeship gift for this meeting today. Chapter 723, Affluence 1. Then, Yi Qingtang opened her space ring. Perfected Xianchen did not have any emotions on his face while Yan Shu's expression darkened. Does this Yi Chen fellow have any brains? Master has already rejected him straightforwardly, but he still did not leave. Apprenticeship gift? Does he think that Master is an ordinary person and will be bribed so easily like Xiong Feng? Young Sir Yi, my master has already said that he is no longer accepting any disciples. You can bring your apprenticeship gift back. Yan Shu wanted to chase away this young man who had no sense of propriety, but when he spoke halfway, he saw Yi Qingtang taking out a slab of metal. Instantly, Yan Shu's words were stuck in his throat. Yi Qingtang took out a slab of meteoric iron from her space ring. In an instant, Perfected Zuanshan's eyes flickered the moment he saw that slab of meteoric iron, although there were no emotions on his face initially. Millennium meteoric iron? Xiong Feng's eyes almost popped out as he stared at the slab of millennium meteoric iron on Yi Qingtang's hand. What joke is this? This fellow actually has millennium meteoric iron? Xiong Feng originally thought that the 3 items Yi Qingtang took out previously were already rare, and the apprenticeship gift she prepared for perfected Xianxun should also be a rare treasure. Yet, unexpectedly, this could not be generalized as rare. I heard that you've always wanted to forge a sword with millennium meteoric iron. I happen to have some millennium meteoric iron. I wonder if you like it? Yi Qingtang looked up at perfected Xianxun. Being by perfected Zuanshan's side for many years in her past life, she naturally knew how desperate his need was for the millennium meteoric iron. As long as you're willing to accept me as your disciple, I'll offer this millennium meteoric iron to you as a form of respect, Yi Qingtang said. Perfected Xianxun frowned slightly. He had been searching for the millennium meteoric iron for nearly 10 years to no avail. Yet, unexpectedly, he would actually see it in this young man's hands today. Yan Shu was also dumbfounded. His master held the noble position of Falling Sky Valley's Valley Master and had seen many precious treasures before. If this young man took out any other thing, it would definitely be unable to move his master. But this millennium meteoric iron. Yan Shu had been following perfected Xianxun for a long time and spent a lot of effort with some senior and junior brothers to find this millennium meteoric iron in recent years. Yet they were not successful. However, this young man took such a huge slab of millennium meteoric iron and claimed that it was an apprenticeship gift. At that moment, Yan Shu did not dare to say anything and could only turn to look at perfected Xianxun silently. Xiong Feng, who had not said anything all this while, started pondering. From the start, he felt that this Yi Chen's background was not ordinary, as the treasures in his hands seemed to be endless, whereby he even took out the millennium meteoric iron now. If he helped him again, this generous fellow might even give him some good things. Xiong Feng, who originally intended to watch from the sidelines, was suddenly active. Valley Master, I think that Yi Chen is pretty sincere in being apprenticed to you. This millennium meteoric iron is extremely rare, yet he could bring it to you. It seems that he had been making preparations for a long time. Such mellow youths are rare already. You have always cherished talents. How about giving Yi Chen a chance? Then, Xiong Feng looked at Yi Qingtang with a bright smile. Yi Qingtang obviously knew what Xiong Feng was thinking. Perfected Xianxun was hesitant as he looked at the bright-eyed youth who had a trace of persistence in his eyes. You really wish to be apprenticed to me? Perfected Xianxun finally spoke. Yi Qingtang nodded immediately. Yes. Your apprenticeship gift is not small and is indeed what I need. However, even if I'm willing to give you a chance to become my disciple, I'll still need to see your endowments. Perfected Xianxun finally relented, although he did not rashly agree to accept Yi Qingti. Show me your spirit root, Perfected Xianxun said. Although Xiong Feng was materialistic, there was something he said that Perfected Xianxun thought made sense. The millennium meteoric iron was extremely rare, and many knew that he was searching for it. Since this young man came prepared, it seemed that he was indeed thoughtful. To obtain the millennium meteoric iron, he must have made painstaking efforts. After hearing Perfected Zuanshan's words, Yi Qingtang immediately opened her hands, where a yellow light bloomed in her palm, and a yellow spirit root appeared silently. When the yellow spirit root was revealed, Perfected Zuanshan's brows furrowed slightly, and even Xiong Feng, who had been helping to speak for her, had a stiffened expression. Yellow spirit root? Xiong Feng looked at Yi Qingtang in surprise. He originally thought that Yi Qingtang was from a rather powerful background to directly ask to be apprenticed to Perfected Xianxun, which suggested to him that his endowments should be relatively good, otherwise he would not be so bold. Yet, unexpectedly, She was actually only a yellow spirit root. If it was in ordinary sex, a yellow spirit root was considered pretty good, but in Falling Sky Valley, a force comparable to super sex, it seemed rather shabby. In Falling Sky Valley, yellow spirit root was the lowest grade spirit root of ordinary disciples in all the peaks, and one had to possess at least a green spirit root to be apprenticed to a peak master. All the disciples under perfected Xianxin had green spirit roots and above. Xiong Feng's lips twitched for a moment. He never thought that this ostentatious young man would actually have such mediocre endowments. Perfected Xianxin frowned slightly while Yan Shu's expression turned strange. He originally thought that this young man's endowments would be pretty good since he was so stubborn and insistent, but in the end, Perfected Xianxin took a deep breath and looked up at Yi Qingtang. You can return. I cannot accept you. While Millennium Meteoric Iron was hard to obtain, Yi Qingtang's endowments were insufficient to be apprenticed to him. If he was accepted as an exception, there would be many criticisms. Yi Qingtang kept her spirit root while looking at Perfected Xianxin. He had just taken on the position as the Valley Master not long ago, and the Valley's internal affairs were rather messy. However, in her past life, Yi Qingtang had met Perfected Xianxin many years later when he was calm and indifferent and had way fewer areas of consideration. If Yi Qingtang came to be apprenticed to Perfected Xianxin a few years later like in her previous life, he probably would not refuse given his future personality. However, she did not wish to wait for such a long time. After hearing Perfected Xuanxin's rejection, Yi Qingtang was not anxious at all, and a glint flashed across her eyes instead. She looked up and said, "There's no hurry. I know that my spirit root isn't good, but my heart is sincere. This Millennium Meteoric Iron is the first apprenticeship gift I prepared. If you accept me, I naturally have a second apprenticeship gift." Chapter 725, Affluence, 3. I've already said it clearly that I cannot accept you. There's no need for you to say anything further. Please return. Perfected Xianxin shook his head, evidently unwilling to speak to Yi Qingtang anymore. Yichen, my master has made his stand clear, and you should not insist anymore. If you're unwilling to leave, I can only invite you out. Yan Shu warned immediately after understanding his master's intention. Completely ignoring Yan Shu's warning, Yi Qingtang looked at Perfected Xianxin and said, "Don't you wish to know what my second apprenticeship gift is?" Perfected Xianxin remained silent, making clear his intention for Yi Qingtang to leave. Yan Shu's brows were slightly furrowed as he took a few steps forward, preparing to personally shoo this ignorant young man away. However, my second apprenticeship gift is to invite a blacksmith master, Master Du, to tailor a sword using the Millennium Meteoric Iron just for you, Yi Qingtang said immediately. Both Perfected Xianxin and Yan Shu were stunned by Yi Qingtang's words. You said Master Du? Perfected Xianxin asked. Yes. Master Du from the Bliss Forging Workshop. Yi Qingtang nodded. Don't kid around. Yan Shu's face darkened immediately. It's not a lie that you have the Millennium Meteoric Iron, but if you said that you can request Master Du successfully, it is impossible. Yan Shu naturally knew of Master Du. Perfected Xianxin wished to forge a Millennium Meteoric Iron sword and had to first find a blacksmith master who could forge the Millennium Meteoric Iron. In the Nine Knights dynasty, there was only one person who possessed such a craft, which was Bliss Forging Workshop's Master Du. To request his help, Perfected Xianxin had sent his disciples to Master Du countless times and even personally looked for him just to seek his promise in forging a sword for him. Yet despite so, Master Du still refused to meet Perfected Xianxin, much less agree to make a sword. Everyone knew that Master Du was aloof and had a weird personality. There were numerous people who requested for his service, but the number of people who succeeded could be counted with one's fingers. In recent years, Master Du had never agreed to forge a sword for a single person. Perfected Xianxin was not the only one who was given a cold shoulder. Even the Nine Knights dynasty's premier, Ouyang family clan master, and Tiangang sect's sect master were also rejected plenty of times. This man was so young. How could he possibly request for Master Du's service successfully? Not mentioning Yan Shu's disbelief, even Perfected Xianxin thought that Yi Qingtang spoke recklessly out of anxiety. "I'm not kidding around," Yi Qingtang said calmly. Perfected Xianxin said in a low voice, "If you really can ask Master Du to forge a sword for me, I'll accept you. If not, don't stay here any longer." While Millennium Meteoric Iron was precious, it was nothing but a useless metal if no one could forge it. If Yi Qingtang could really ask Master Du successfully, one would really be astonished. However, Perfected Xianxin did not believe it and merely wanted the stubborn young man to leave as soon as possible. A trace of a smile emerged within Yi Qingtang when she heard, and she confirmed with him calmly. "Is what you said valid? If I can request for Master Du's service successfully, will you really make an exception and accept me as your disciple?" "My words are naturally valid." Perfected Xianxin nodded. Yi Qingtang beamed and immediately bowed. "Please wait for a while then. I'll invite Master Du over." Then, Yi Qingtang walked out of the hall herself without waiting for Yan Shu to chase her out. When Xiong Feng exited the hall, he saw Yi Qingtang leaving with the little white tiger and silver wolf, and he chased after them hurriedly. "Yi Chen, I already told you that Perfected Xianxin is no longer accepting any disciples. You also saw that I put in good words for you just now. It's a pity." Xiong Feng put on a regretful look. Of course, Yi Qingtang knew what his motive was, and she smiled. "Thank you for your help today, Warden Xiong. Nah, it's a pity though. I saw that you were very sincere and wanted to help you," Xiong Feng said with a laugh. Yi Qingtang understood his intentions and replied, "Thank you. I have a bottle of Qi recovery elixir, and I'll give it to you. When I bring Master Du over, he'll still need to trouble you." The moment Xiong Feng saw the Qi recovery elixir, his face bloomed, and he received it with a grin, though he did not think that Yi Qingtang's words were very probable. This fellow had many good items, but these would not be enough to request for Master Du's service successfully. However, Xiong Feng was not so foolish to say these out loud and instead wore a trustful appearance. He had obtained the items already anyway, and whatever troubles this fellow did had nothing to do with him anymore. Xiong Feng immediately led Yi Qingtang out of Falling Sky Valley and subsequently strutted back into the valley with his arms filled with a pile of treasures. Half a day passed in the blink of an eye. Xiong Feng was in his room busy admiring the scorching sun gloves and golden moon armor that he just obtained, and he thought that his days would be much more comfortable if a few more fat sheep like Yi Qingtang came. The more he looked at them, the more beautiful they were. Just as Xiong Feng was filled with bliss, a Falling Sky Valley disciple knocked on Warden Xiong's door. "What is it?" Xiong Feng asked without looking up. "Warden Xiong, a young man outside the valley said he wants to meet you." "Who is it? Tell him that I'm not free." Xiong Feng replied impatiently. "That young man said he is Yi Chen and that he talked to you about this before." "Yi Chen?" Xiong Feng was dumbfounded to hear that. He hurriedly put away his things, left his room, and asked that disciple, "You said that person is called Yi Chen?" Xiong Feng was instantly stupefied. What is going on? That fellow was just gone for half a day. Why did he come back suddenly? Could it be that he was still unwilling to give up? Confusion filled Xiong Feng, but at the thought that the person was generous with his gifts, he did not find it troublesome at all. Perhaps that fellow came round and wanted to change an elder to be apprenticed to. When he thought that he could fish some treasures out again, Xiong Feng was instantaneously energized and dashed to Falling Sky Valley's entrance. Yi Qingtang stood outside Falling Sky Valley with the silver wolf and the little white tiger. Beside her, an elderly with white beard swept a fleeting glance across the imposing-looking Falling Sky Valley. "I didn't think that you actually wanted to enter Falling Sky Valley. You tormented my old body to make a trip here with you." The elderly scoffed. While he spoke that way, there was no trace of impatience on his face. "Thank you for your trouble, Master Du," Yi Qingtang smiled. Wasn't the person standing beside her none other than Master Du of Bliss Forging Workshop? "Forget it. I've already agreed to come here, and there's nothing much to say. As for the collaboration that I mentioned previously, how are you considering it?" Master Du changed the topic and asked with a grin. Yi Qingtang was about to reply but saw that Xiong Feng had already reached the valley's entrance, so she kept silent immediately. Chapter 727. Amazing 2. Xiong Feng ran over hurriedly and spoke once he saw Yi Qingtang. Yichen, why are you back so soon? Did you come around? Do you want to find another elder to be apprenticed to? Yi Qingtang shook her head and smiled. That's not the case. I'm still here to be apprenticed to perfected Xianxin. Ha! Xiong Feng was surprised. This time, he noticed that there was an elderly beside Yi Qingtang and immediately gasped when he fixed his eyes on the person. In the main hall of Falling Sky Valley, Yan Shu was helping perfected Xianxin to tidy up the scrolls on the table. Master, the Blue Cloud Peak's disciples are a little unsettled recently. They looked for trouble with the disciples at our side when they left the valley. This matter, Yan Shu said with a frown. Perfected Zuanshan's brows were furrowed. He was about to speak but saw Xiong Feng entering the hall anxiously. Reporting Valley Master. The Yichen is back again. Perfected Xianxin did not have any emotions on his face. He was rather helpless towards that young man's persistence. Rather, Yan Shu had a look of annoyance on his face. Is that fellow finished? Didn't Master already tell him clearly? Why is he here again? Warden Xiong, you also know what my master meant. Why did you still let him in? Evidently, Yan Shu was dissatisfied that Xiong Feng let someone into the valley again. Xiong Feng replied. It's not that. I did not let him in intentionally, but he brought another person back. Brought another person here? Did he bring a senior from her clan over to plead for her? Yan Shu asked with a frown. Xiong Feng shook his head. It's not someone from his clan, but Master Du, what? Yan Shu dropped the scrolls in his hand. Perfected Xianxin was all the more shocked. Master Du? You said Master Du of Bliss Forging Workshop? Perfected Xianxin asked. Xiong Feng nodded. Yan Shu was surprised. It can't be right? That fellow really invited Master Du over? Could it be that he found someone who looks similar to Master Du to pretend to be Master Du? Warden Xiong, did you identify him correctly? Yes. That person is indeed Master Du, Xiong Feng said. Perfected Xianxin was astounded. He had requested to meet Master Du countless times but was unsuccessful over the years. Now, this person was really invited over to Falling Sky Valley? Perfected Xianxin immediately stood up and walked out of the hall. Yan Shu followed right after hurriedly. Perfected Xianxin saw an elderly with aged features standing beside Yi Qingtang outside the hall. The moment Perfected Xianxin saw that elderly, his heart skipped a beat. Master Du, why are you here? Perfected Xianxin asked, surprised as he looked at the elderly. Master Du looked up slightly at Perfected Xianxin and said, Perfected Xianxin? That's me. Perfected Xianxin nodded in reply. Master Du nodded slightly and looked at Yi Qingtang beside him. I'm here today because Brother Yi wanted me to come and make a sword for you. Make a sword for me? Perfected Xianxin was astounded, and he looked at Yi Qingtang in surprise. Master Du, I have requested you to help me make a sword for many times before, but you've never agreed. Now, Master Du said, I'll naturally not bother if others wanted me to forge weapons for them, but since this is Brother Ye's favor, of course I will help him. Perfected Xianxin was astonished. Yi Qingtang asked him to make a sword, and he agreed just like that. Chapter 728. Amazing 3. Even Yan Shu and Xiong Feng were surprised by Master Du's reply. How big is this Yi Qin? Perfected Xianxin was filled with astonishment. May I know what's the relation between you and this Brother Yi? We are good friends in spite of the age difference, Master Du said with a laugh. Previously, when Yi Qingtang came to the Bliss Forging Workshop to find him, she had already made it clear that she wished to be a disciple of Falling Sky Valley's Perfected Xianxin. Master Du wanted to collaborate with Yi Qingtang, and now that he knew Yi Qingtang needed help, he would support her fully. Good friends in spite of the age difference? The surprise in Perfected Zuanshan's eyes deepened as he looked at Yi Qingtang, who smiled sweetly. I've troubled you to make this trip, Master Du, Yi Qingtang said with a smile. It's just you. If it's others, I would be too lazy to move an inch. Although Master Du was aloof, he was rather polite to Yi Qingtang, the person he wanted to collaborate with. He was still waiting to collaborate with this fellow and thus spoke well of him. Yi Qingtang was at a loss of whether to laugh or cry, but Master Du's words did boost her face. Yan Shu was utterly dumbfounded. He previously thought that this Yi Chen was merely making big talk and that it was simply impossible for him to request for Master Du's appearance successfully. Yet, unexpectedly, it was a big slap in his face. Not only did Master Du come, but his words also implied that he had a good relationship with Yi Qingtang. This made Yan Shu, who experienced countless cold shoulder treatments, extremely shocked. What exactly is this Yi Chen's background? He said he was inviting Master Du over and really did so? It must be known that even his master could not invite this Master Du over. What kind of sword do you wish to make? Master Du immediately looked at Perfected Xianxin. Perfected Zuanshan's heart leaped a beat, and he handed Master Du a sketch that he had prepared a long time ago. After taking a look, Master Du said, "The sword is pretty good. However, if you wish to make this sword, the materials used cannot be ordinary ones. Otherwise, even if it is made, it will just be a useless piece of metal that is pleasant to the eye." Perfected Xianxin was not in a hurry to speak and merely cast a look at Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang smiled. "If my master needs it, I will offer the Millennium Meteoric Iron to forge this sword." Perfected Xianxin thought of the promise he made to Yi Qingtang that he said casually so that she could retreat in face of difficulties. Yet, unexpectedly, it actually came true. A gentleman never went back on his promise. Perfected Xianxin sighed lightly and looked at Master Du. "Master Du, what if the Millennium Meteoric Iron is used to forge this weapon? That would be the best." If Millennium Meteoric Iron is used, its effects would be amplified fully. Master Du knew that Yi Qingtang wanted to be apprenticed to Perfected Xianxin and knew that she had the Millennium Meteoric Iron. Perfected Xianxin nodded slightly and met with Yi Qingtang's eyes. "Yi Chen. Here. From today on, you are my disciple," Perfected Xianxin slowly said what Yi Qingtang had been waiting to hear for a long time. Smiles filled Yi Qingtang's eyes. She heard this sentence in her previous life as well, and it was so reminiscing to hear again today. "I pay respects to Master." Yi Qingtang immediately knelt on one knee and bowed to Perfected Xianxin. "Falling Sky Valley, she is back. Master. She is back." Chapter 729, Senior and Junior Brothers, 1. Perfected Xianxin nodded and asked Yan Shu to bring Yi Qingtang around in the valley. He would discuss the details of the sword with Master Du. Yan Shu then brought Yi Qingtang out of the hall. The Valley Master presides over the Falling Sky Valley. Under the Valley Master, there are 12 Peak Masters who are in charge of the 12 peaks. Our master was Admirable Sky Peak's Peak Master previously. He took over the duty as the Valley Master temporarily as the old Valley Master was sick. Yan Shu led Yi Qingtang to her living place and explained on the way there. Since Perfected Xianxin took Yi Chen in as his disciple, she would be Yan Shu's junior brother. Though Yan Shu was not very pleased by that, he would still carry out his duties according to his master's command. "This is where we stay. Settle down first, and I will lead you around the valley later to be familiar with the surroundings here. Your spirit animals. It's better if you ask them to stay in the room." Yan Shu's sight landed on the two figures behind Yi Qingtang. "Thank you, Senior Brother Yan." Yi Qingtang nodded and said. Yan Shu took a glimpse at Yi Qingtang. His eyesight was complex. Honestly speaking, he did not recognize her ability. She was not qualified to be his master's disciple as she only possessed the yellow spirit root. However, Yi Qingtang had the Millennium Meteoric Iron and was friends with Master Du. "Arrange your stuff for a while. I'll wait for you outside," Yan Shu said. Yi Qingtang nodded and walked into her room. The arrangement of the rooms of Falling Sky Valley disciples was about the same. Yi Qingtang felt emotional towards the things that were familiar to her. Yan Shu stood outside the door and waited. Two disciples walked towards him after a while. "Yan Shu? How come you are here? Aren't you supposed to be with Master now?" The tall and arrogant young man smiled and asked. Yan Shu felt a headache when he saw the person. "Senior Brother Qian." The young man named Qian Zhe. He was also Perfected Zuanshan's disciple. He was very talented, but his personality was not something to be flattered. He caused trouble everywhere, and it would not be an exaggeration to call him the tyrant. Though Qianzhe was slightly younger than Yan Shu, he apprenticed earlier. As a result, Yan Shu had to address him as senior brother. I thought that you were always the most obedient person. How come you sneaked out today? Qianzhe smiled and looked at Yan Shu. Master just took in a new disciple. I'm here to introduce him to the valley, Yan Shu said expressionlessly. Qianzhe lifted his eyebrows slightly. The person standing beside Qianzhe was Ji Yishuan. He was slightly curious after hearing Yan Shu's words. Master had a new disciple? Yes. Yan Shu nodded. As the three of them were chatting, the door behind Yan Shu was opened. Yi Qingtang walked out of the room. She saw Qianzhe and Ji Yishuan outside once she raised her head. This is my new little junior brother then? Such a pretty face. Qianzhe sized up Yi Qingtang. Junior brother Qian. Ji Yishuan frowned. Qianzhe shrugged his shoulders. Yi Qingtang's eyes were filled with smiles as she stared at Qianzhe. She had met Yishuan before at the formidable Heavens dynasty. As for Qianzhe, he was really her acquaintance in her previous life. Chapter 730, Senior and Junior Brothers. 2. If Feng Moli of the Xianling sect could be called as the tyrant, Qianzhe would be the devil in the Falling Sky Valley. When Yi Qingtang just entered the Falling Sky Valley in her previous life, she suffered under Qianzhe. She always wanted to make a detour whenever she saw Qianzhe. However, the senior brother who always bullied her in the past was the one who stood up for her and shielded her against everything. Yichen, this is Qianzhe, senior brother Qian. This is Ji Yishuan, senior brother Ji. Yichen introduced expressionlessly. Senior brother Qian, senior brother Ji, Yi Qingtang said. The two of them nodded. Senior brothers, if you do not have other matters, I'll show junior brother around. Go ahead, I need to take a nap. Qianzhe yawned and waved his hand. Yan Shu then led Yi Qingtang out. Ji Yishuan was about to leave with Qianzhe after they left. Qianzhe stared at Yi Qingtang's figure and smiled. Senior brother Ji, I heard something interesting on my way here just now, and that is related to our new junior brother. Are you interested? No interest. Ji Yishuan did not care about that at all. Qianzhe murmured to himself. Our master has not taken in any disciple for a long time. I heard from a disciple who followed Warden Xiong that the reason why junior brother Yi could be apprenticed was not due to her talent, but she invited Master Du to forge a sword for Master with the Millennium Meteoric Iron. Ji Yishuan was slightly stunned. As perfected Zuanshan's disciple, how could they not know their master's preferences? I think junior brother Yi only possesses a yellow spirit root. This is interesting. If the information leaks to other peaks, there will be much more trouble, Qianzhe said enthusiastically. Ji Yishuan frowned. Ever since perfected Xianshan took over the position as the Valley Master, the situations in the peaks were more complicated. If that was true, Qianzhe was not interested to say anything else. He yawned and wandered back to his room. On the other hand, Yan Shu led Yi Qingtang around in the Falling Sky Valley. The Falling Sky Valley was huge. It would take more than a day to go to every corner. Normal peak disciples will cultivate in their respective peaks. If they have some missions that require them to go out, Yan Shu said expressionlessly. Though he mentioned everything, his tone was warm and his face was serious. Yi Qingtang was not bothered by that. She just listened quietly to Yan Shu explaining everything about the Falling Sky Valley. Yi Qingtang's knowledge towards the Falling Sky Valley was scarcer than Yan Shu. Yi Qingtang was familiar with everything she saw on the way. When Yan Shu was about to lead her to the martial cultivation hall, he suddenly heard quarreling sounds. Yan Shu stopped and looked towards the direction of the sound. There was a group of Falling Sky Valley disciples gathered not far away. Unpleasant quarreling sounds could be heard faintly in the crowd. Senior brother Yan, what's going on? Yi Qingtang asked. Let's take a look first. Yan Shu frowned slightly. The two of them then walked towards the origin of the sounds. There was a skinny pale young man standing in the crowd of disciples. Chapter 731, Senior and Junior Brothers. 3. Xing Qianyu, show me the proof that the white sage is yours. There were a few tall teenagers who stood in front of the young man. They stared at the pale young man arrogantly. Xing Qianyu held his fist tightly and said, "The white sage was mine. I found it at the Sea Moon Bay." What a joke! We got the white sage at the Sea Moon Bay on a mission. How come it becomes yours now? What? Is it because you belong to the Admirable Sky Peak and your peak master now takes over the position as the Valley Master temporarily so you can say anything you want? The few teenagers smiled coldly. Xing Qianyu raged, and his body trembled. He pointed at the teenagers and said, "Don't you dare to defile the Valley Master. How is this related to him? The white sage belonged to me. You took it over before you returned to the valley." Yi Qingtang and Yan Shu walked into the crowd and heard them quarreling. Xing Qianyu was a normal disciple of Admirable Sky Peak. He got a white sage by chance when he was out a few days ago at the Sea Moon Bay. However, just when he picked up the white sage, he ran into the disciples of the Blue Cloud Peak. The few disciples noticed that Xing Qianyu was alone. The white sage was a rare find, and they then asked to take a look. Xing Qianyu did not contemplate as they were both the Falling Sky Valley disciples. However, the moment they got their hands on the white sage, they ran away with it. Now, all of them were back to the Falling Sky Valley. Xing Qianyu rushed over to ask for it back. However, the Blue Cloud Peak disciples did not admit that at all. They claimed that they found the white sage and that it was totally not related to Xing Qianyu. The senior brothers of the Blue Cloud Peak are reasonable. "Xing Qianyu, you said that the white sage is yours? How did it end up in their hands when it's yours? Are you trying to fabricate a charge against them as you want the precious white sage to yourself?" One of the disciples from the other peak in the audience smiled and stared at Xing Qianyu, whose face was pale. "I gave it to them as they wanted to take a look," Xing Qianyu explained in a hurry. However, no one cared about his explanation. Everyone looked at him sneeringly. Yi Qingtang witnessed the whole thing coldly and sneered in her heart. She met Xing Qianyu in her previous life. He was talented but very weak. She really believed that the white sage was fooled over by the people from the Blue Cloud Peak. Based on Xing Qianyu's temper, he could never lie to others. If such things happened under other peaks, the wardens of the respective peaks would be invited over for justice. However, it happened to an Admirable Sky Peak disciple, and the situation was different now. After the perfected Xianxin took over the position as the Valley Master, he noticed other peak masters' discontentment. In order to meet the old Valley Master's expectations and maintain the harmony in the valley, he warned all disciples of the Admirable Sky Peak to prevent trouble. If they had any conflicts with other peaks, they had to forbear with them. That was the reason why disciples of other peaks dared to create trouble under their peak master's hints. It was a norm to bully disciples of the Admirable Sky Peak. Chapter 732. If this can be endured, what else cannot be? 1. Yan Shu's face was not very pleasant as well. Suddenly, a pretty and skinny figure walked towards Yan Shu. Senior brother Yan. Yan Shu looked towards the direction where the sound came from. Junior sister Yin. The girl, Yin Qingluo, was also perfected Zuanshan's disciple. People of the Blue Cloud Peak are really too extreme. Yin Qingluo frowned and said, she had witnessed the incident for a while. If not for her master warning them that they could not find any trouble, she would definitely beat those disciples of the Blue Cloud Peak. Yan Shu did not say anything, but his face clouded. Yin Qingluo then noticed that there was a handsome young man standing beside Yan Shu. She was shocked by the young man's appearance, but she frowned after a while. Senior brother Yan, is this our master's new disciple? Yan Shu knew that Yin Qingluo was asking about Yi Qingtang. He nodded and said, yes. He is Yi Qin. Senior sister Yin. Yi Qingtang folded her hands and said, Yi Qingtang knew Yin Qingluo in her previous life. She was not kind at all despite her skinny features. Yin Qingluo stared at Yi Qingtang. Her sight was not warm at all. She nodded perfunctorily and said towards Yan Shu, the rumor is true then. What rumor? Yan Shu was confused. Before I came here, I just heard from other disciples that Master made an exception and took in a new disciple with a yellow spirit root. I thought that it was nonsense, however. Now, it seems that it's true. She was trying to be implicit. However, she knew that the new disciple got in through the back door. Yen Shu pursed his lips but did not say anything. Yin Qingluo did not continue, but her eyes that were staring at Yi Qingtang were filled with unpleasantness. Perfected Xuanxin's disciples all possessed, at minimum, green spirit roots. Now, there was a new disciple with a yellow spirit root, and he was not apprenticed by his ability. No one could treat him as their true senior or junior brother. Yi Qingtang noticed Yin Qingluo's unpleasant sight, but she did not say anything. She figured that the news of her being accepted by exception was spread out by Xiong Feng, who could not keep any secret. She might not be able to enter the eyes of the admirable sky peaks, not mentioning the other peaks. However, she did not care about that. She still had a long time here. When Yin Qingluo was chatting with Yen Shu, Sheng Qianya's face was getting paler as he was challenged by the Blue Cloud Peak disciples. Yin Qingluo was a straightforward person. She could not tolerate it anymore when she saw her junior brother of the same peak being bullied by others. Yen Shu noticed Yin Qingluo's move and said softly, "Don't create any trouble." Yen Shu was angry in his heart, but he could not do anything based on his master's warning. "I know what I'm doing." Yin Qingluo nodded and walked out. Senior brothers of the Blue Cloud Peak, junior brother Sheng is always an innocent person. He will never frame anyone for anything. The disciples of the Blue Cloud Peak looked towards Yin Qingluo as she walked out. "Your words are funny, junior sister Yin. If Sheng Qinyu was saying the truth, you're saying that we're wrong? And we really took his thing by force?" The disciples of the Blue Cloud Peak sneered. "Senior sister Yin." Sheng Qinyu stared at Yin Qingluo nervously as she was the only one who was willing to speak for him. Chapter 733. If this can be endured, what else cannot be? 2. The other disciple of the admirable sky peak in the audience sighed in relief after seeing Yin Qingluo stepped out. Yin Qingluo glanced at Sheng Qinyu and signaled him to stay quiet. She then looked towards the disciples of the Blue Cloud Peak and said, "I did not say that. I'm just saying the truth here." Junior sister Yin, you speak so confidently now that you have become the village master's disciple. You were not at the Sea Moon Bay. How would you know that Sheng Qinyu is right? I think that you're just trying to defend your own admirable sky peak's disciple. Yin Qingluo frowned slightly. Though she was mentally prepared, these Blue Cloud Peak disciples were not kind at all. The white sage belongs to the person who holds it now. The Blue Cloud Peak disciple sneered. Junior sister Yin, if you think it's not right, please, invite the warden over. Yin Qingluo's face darkened. The level of the incident would increase if she had to invite the warden over. Furthermore, it disobeyed her master's warning. Since you can't make your mind as well, leave now. The Blue Cloud Peak disciples were about to turn and leave. Sheng Qinyu was anxious at the moment. The white sage was very important to him. If these people left, they might eat the white sage. Even if he found the warden tomorrow, there would be no proof. Stop! Sheng Qinyu rushed over impatiently. Yin Qingluo did not expect that Sheng Qinyu would be so impulsive, and she did not have time to react. Sheng Qinyu rushed towards the Blue Cloud Peak disciples. Sheng Qinyu grabbed the first Blue Cloud Peak disciple and intended to take the white sage. How dare you snatch it? A cold smile flashed across the Blue Cloud Peak disciple's eyes as he saw Sheng Qinyu going to snatch the white sage by force. He lifted his leg and kicked towards Sheng Qianya's stomach. Sheng Qinyu had just apprenticed at the Falling Sky Valley for a year. His cultivation was incomparable to that of the Blue Cloud Peak disciples. He was kicked and he collapsed onto the ground. Junior brother Sheng. Yin Qingluo was shocked. The Blue Cloud Peak disciples kicked Sheng Qinyu again. What do you want? Yin Qingluo shouted coldly and wanted to take some action. Junior sister Yin, you also saw that he came to me first. What? You can do anything you want just because your perfected Xianxin becomes the Valley Master? One of the Blue Cloud Peak disciples scoffed. Yin Qingluo stopped and stared at those disciples. She could literally rip their skin off now. Sheng Qinyu just pulled them, and they dared to beat him like that. Give me back the white sage. Sheng Qinyu covered his stomach and stood up. Sheng Qinyu, don't seek your own death here. The disciples warned fiercely. Sheng Qinyu did not seem to hear their words and dashed towards them again. How dare you! The Blue Cloud Peak disciple immediately smashed his fist towards Sheng Qianya's head. Yin Qingluo was shocked. She wanted to stop that, but it was too late. The Blue Cloud Peak disciple's fist smashed down. Sheng Qianya's heart trembled. However, before the fist landed on his head, it was grabbed tightly by a small, white hand. Before the Blue Cloud Peak disciple could react, he was kicked out instantly. Chapter 734. If this can be endured, what else cannot be? This kick directly kicked everyone out of their senses. Sheng Qinyu was shocked to see a pretty young man standing before him. The Blue Cloud Peak disciple who was flung away rose hastily and glared at Yi Qingtang, who was defending Sheng Qinyu behind her. No one expected Yi Qingtang to strike suddenly, and even Yan Shu, who was standing beside her before this, was stunned. When did she attack? Why did he not feel a thing? Who are you? The Blue Cloud Peak disciples immediately glared at the pretty young man who appeared from nowhere when they saw their fellow disciple being beaten up. A sneer hung on Yi Qingtang's lips as she looked at the violent Blue Cloud Peak disciples, not bothering to respond to them. She immediately stretched her hand out and picked up the white sage that the Blue Cloud Peak disciple dropped on the floor. A while ago, you all said that the white sage belongs to whoever has his hands on it. Now, it's in my hands and it belongs to me already. Damn brat! You have a death wish. The Blue Cloud Peak disciples' expressions darkened, and they immediately charged towards Yi Qingtang. A trace of coldness flashed across Yi Qingtang's eyes. Raising a leg, her elegant frame sent a flying kick at those Blue Cloud Peak disciples who pounced on her. Those disciples could not even see Yi Qingtang's actions clearly and were directly sent flying away after being kicked on their heads by Yi Qingtang. In just the blink of an eye, those Blue Cloud Peak disciples crashed on the ground heavily. In the entire process, Yi Qingtang was as fast as lightning, and even the surrounding disciples did not react in time. Yin Qingluo's eyes were filled with astonishment as she looked at Yi Qingtang, who suddenly attacked. In reality, the skills of those Blue Cloud Peak disciples were not considered high, and she could easily defeat them as well if she attacked. However, she did not dare to attack because of her master. Even if she was infuriated, she could only endure it. Yet, unexpectedly, this young man who just became her master's disciple would actually be so decisive and did what she did not have the courage to do. Yan Shu was taken aback as well. He looked at Yi Qingtang in surprise, and the despise he held for her in his eyes reduced. Your white sage. Yi Qingtang stuffed the white sage to the dazed Sheng Qinyu without hesitation. Sheng Qinyu looked down at the white sage in his hands that he regained and then looked at Yi Qingtang, who stood before him agitatedly. Thank you. Thank you. The white sage was extremely important to him, and he could not lose it. Yi Qingtang chuckled. The Blue Cloud Peak disciples behind her had already crawled up from the ground. Brat, who exactly are you? Report your name if you have the guts. The Blue Cloud Peak disciples suffered. Even though they did not wish to admit it, this fellow was too fast, and they could not even see it clearly. However, this fellow looked very foreign, and they did not know which peak this fellow was a disciple from. Looking at him, it did not seem like he was in the valley as a guest. Yi Qin, disciple of perfected Xianxin. Yi Qingtang looked at those Blue Cloud Peak disciples coldly. You're perfected Zuanshan's disciple? Those Blue Cloud Peak disciples were evidently taken aback. They recognized all of perfected Zuanshan's disciples but had never seen this fellow before. Chapter 735. Who still refuses to accept this? 1. He is Yi Qin? That fellow who got in through the back door? Discussions erupted in the crowd, and it was clear that the news from Xiong Feng had already circulated in Falling Sky Valley. Some admirable Sky Peak disciples were dumbfounded. Just a while ago, They heard from somewhere that a person was accepted as perfected Xuanzhen's disciple as an exception after presenting gifts to their master. When they heard this, they were still grumbling about it in their hearts. Perfected Xianxin had never accepted a disciple as an exception, yet he suddenly made such a choice today. This caused many to feel rather unbalanced and look down on that foreign-looking new disciple. It seemed to them that the new disciple who got in through the back door must be a hedonistic son of wealthy parents. Yet, unexpectedly, they actually met him now. However, this meeting faded their contempt for him. After perfected Xianxin became the Valley Master, Admirable Sky Peak's disciples had been suffering in silence. Even if they were taken advantage of in other peaks, they could only hold back their anger for the sake of taking the big picture into consideration. This new fellow, however, beat those Blue Cloud Peak's scumbags into pulp, which sparked a jolly feeling in the other Admirable Sky Peak disciples. Yichen, is it? You have the guts. You rely on the fact that your master is the valley. Those Blue Cloud Peak disciples were about to ramble on. Yi Qingtang scoffed coldly. Do you all know how to talk about other things? So what if my master is the Valley Master? Should all of us Admirable Sky Peak disciples behave by tucking our tail between our legs just because of that? What has today's incident got to do with my master? If you all refuse to accept this, just come at me all together. I'll beat you all up until you all are willing to concede defeat. Yi Qingtang simply could not be bothered to speak to these Blue Cloud Peak disciples. In her previous life, Perfected Xianxin also made his disciples exercise forbearance in consideration of the big picture, but in the end, it only emboldened the various peak masters and disciples, and Falling Sky Valley was even more chaotic. As a result, when Falling Sky Valley met with a calamity, each peak defended themselves instead of coming together as one and were attacked one by one. Falling Sky Valley was mighty, but because everyone harbored different intentions, it was all but a disunited valley. Some people were like that. If you let them have his way and tolerated their antics, they would become even more savage and not know how to exercise restraint. Only when they were beaten up would they realize that they had to listen to whoever with a harder fist. Yi Qingtang had always believed in perfected Xuanzhen's direction in maintaining the harmony in Falling Sky Valley, but facts had proven that even if her master accommodated others, it was merely asking for trouble by indulging the enemy. In the past, he had inflated other peak masters' ambitions and fattened the guts of various peaks' disciples. In this life, she would not let them have their way again. What a big talker! The Blue Cloud Peak disciples' expression darkened. They unsheathed their swords and immediately charged towards Yi Qingtang. Yan Shu and Yin Qingluo were shocked and wanted to step in. However, a trace of coldness flashed across Yi Qingtang's eyes, and she drew out the demonic blood sword. As she waved her hand, a sword aura suddenly rushed out from her blade. Clank, clank, clank. Numerous clear sounds rang. Wherever the cold glint slashed across, several broken sword tips fell on the ground. The Blue Cloud Peak disciples' swords were broken by Yi Qingtang's sword aura. The remaining sword aura pounded on the chest of those Blue Cloud Peak disciples and sent them flying away immediately. Who still refuses to accept this? Just come on up. Yi Qingtang swept a cold glance across the crowd. Chapter 736. Who still refuses to accept this? 2. In just a moment, the surrounding disciples were dumbfounded. The Blue Cloud Peak disciples stood up, stumbling, and glared at Yi Qingtang with clenched teeth. Yichen, just you wait. I welcome you anytime. Yi Qingtang laughed coldly. Those Blue Cloud Peak disciples then left in a flurry. They were merely ordinary disciples of the lowest level in Blue Cloud Peak, and their skills were really nothing much. At most, they could only bully disciples like Sheng Qinyu who just entered the valley. They were relying on the fact that Admirable Sky Peak disciples did not dare to brashly step forward to help free the victim from the predicament. Unexpectedly, they met a tough cookie like Yi Qingtang today. When they saw the Blue Cloud Peak disciples leaving, the onlooking disciples finally dispersed gradually, with an additional memory of Yi Qingtang, who just got in through the back door. Sheng Qinyu looked at Yi Qingtang extremely gratefully. Thank you, Senior Brother Yi. Thank you, Senior Brother Yi. The white sage which he lost and obtained once again was really important to him. We are all disciples of the same master. There's no need for thanks. Yi Qingtang smiled and waved her hands. Yin Qingluo looked at Yi Qingtang with a slight frown and a complicated gaze. This fellow who got in through the back door was not too unlikable, but this incident might not be over so easily. After watching for a long time, Yan Shu eventually took a step forward and called for Yi Qingtang. Junior brother Yi. Senior brother Yan? Yi Qingtang looked at Yan Shu. You must be careful in the future. Since you are a disciple of our master, you should take note of what you say and how you act from now on. Disciples from our peak must not stir trouble in the valley. Do you understand? Yan Shu did not have much of an expression on his face. What Yi Qingtang did today was indeed satisfying, but it defied perfected Zuanshan's orders. After those Blue Cloud Peak returned, they might still make some noise about it. If not for the sake of the larger interest, either he or Yin Qingluo could easily finish those few people with middling skills. Furthermore, Yi Qin did enter through the back door, and this news would be circulated in various Falling Sky Valley's peaks very quickly. His actions today would probably spark criticisms again. If this implicated master, it would be bad. Although Yan Shu felt that Yi Qingtang's actions were still alright, he also thought that he was too public about it. Such a person who became a disciple under the cautious perfected Shenshin with that method would really stir up quite some trouble. Yi Qingtang naturally understood what Yan Shu meant. Yan Shu had always obeyed perfected Zuanshan's orders. In Yi Qingtang's previous life, when proposed to maintain the harmony among the peaks, Yan Shu executed it fully and only thought of protecting it in spite of suffering injustice. Loyal as he was too obstinate. I understand. They'll take notice in the future. Yi Qingtang nodded faintly. Anyway, even if she reasoned with Yan Shu over what was right, Yan Shu's mind was probably too stubborn to agree with her, so she might as well save the saliva. She had already reached Falling Sky Valley now, and whatever she wanted to do was up to her. After seeing Yi Qingtang's reflective attitude, Yan Shu did not say anything else and told Yin Qingluo beside him. Junior sister Yin, bring junior brother Xing to check his injuries first. Those Blue Cloud Peak disciples did not spare any mercy in kicking Xing Qianyu. Chapter 737. Who still refuses to accept this? 3. All right. Yin Qingluo nodded slightly. Yan Shu did not say anything and continued bringing Yi Qingtang around the valley. Shen Qianyu's eyes were filled with gratitude as he watched Yi Qingtang's fading back. Senior sister Yin, this senior brother Yi. Yin Qingluo returned to her senses and looked at the thankful Sheng Qianyu. Yi Chen was just apprenticed to master and does not really understand the valley's situation yet. For today's incident, you've suffered. Sheng Qianyu shook his head. I'm all to blame for not seeing people clearly and being too trustful of others. I know. Master is thinking in consideration of the general situation. Yin Qingluo sighed. Incidents like today's happened in Falling Sky Valley occasionally, and they, admirable Sky Peak disciples, have been swallowing the insult and suppressing their indignation. In terms of grievance, which of them was short of any? Yet even if they were aggrieved, they could only endure it. Master has his own difficulties. Currently, all the other peak masters have veiled criticisms over Master being the acting Valley Master. For the stability of Falling Sky Valley, we can only be like this. Sheng Qianyu nodded. Although he agreed in his heart, one should judge the matter as it stood. When he was picked on by those Blue Cloud Peak disciples, when was he not aggrieved? However, this could not be said out, or they'll bring you to check your injuries first. Yin Qingluo did not say anything further and brought Sheng Qianyu to the physician. Coincidentally, Yin Qingluo saw 3 familiar figures at the physician. Eldest senior brother, senior sister Yi, senior brother Qian. There were 2 males and a female in the room. Apart from the devil incarnate, Qian Zhe, from before, there were 2 other people. The male was tall and had an extraordinary bearing while the lady beside had a graceful frame and an enchanting face. Little Qingqing, why are you here? Yi Ningxi sat on a chair cross-legged as she supported her chin with a hand, and her rosy lips formed a bewitching smile. Yi Ningxi was perfected Xuanzhen's disciple and was born with enchanting beauty. Although her natural endowments were extremely high, she was temperamental. If she was not wearing the Falling Sky Valley uniform, it seemed that she was from an evil cult just by a look. Yin Qingluo immediately recounted the events and let the physician check Xing Qianya's injuries. The Blue Cloud Peak people are getting more and more outrageous. Only you few people have a good temper and can endure it. Yi Ningxi spoke with a raised brow. If I have to say, just eliminate anyone who refuses to accept it. Can a dead person still come out to stir trouble? Qianzhe yawned from a side and spoke casually. Yin Qingluo had a little headache as she looked at these two people. After Master gave the orders, most of the disciples obeyed him, including those who were perverse and unwilling to suffer those grievances. Yi Ningxi and Qianzhe were two of them. Although they were unwilling to follow his words, they did not defy it deliberately either, and they spent less time in the valley, fortunately. Out of sight, out of mind. In addition, these two people had brilliant skills and an eccentric personality. No ordinary disciples from other peaks would seek death and offend them too much. Enough. A cold voice rang. The tall youth who had remained silent frowned slightly. Even eccentric people like Yi Ningxi and Qianzhe did not say anything more after that person spoke. Eldest senior brother. Yin Qingluo looked up at that male with reverence. Chapter 738, Brewing Storm, 1. This man was Gu Yihan, perfected Xuanzhen's eldest disciple, and he possessed outstanding endowments and a steady nature. He also had prestige among the admirable Sky Peak disciples. You're always talking about these. If you're so free, why don't you cultivate more? Gu Yihan swept a cold glance at Yi Ningxi and Qianzhe. Qianzhe shrugged. I'm just speaking casually. Why did you take it seriously, eldest senior brother? That new fellow seems strange though. I reckon he spent quite a sum for Master to accept him as a disciple. I heard that the Yichen fellow is very handsome. Little Qingqing, have you seen him? Yi Ningxi looked at Yin Qingluo with a grin. Yin Qingluo's headache worsened. Cultivation is dependent on oneself. Even if one was apprenticed, it is meaningless if he does not cultivate diligently, Gu Yihan said. Yi Ningxi and Qianzhe exchanged a look. Ever since perfected Xianxin took on the position of the acting valley master, there were more and more things he had to manage. Gu Yihan had been by perfected Xuanzhen's side since young and was the most mature. In addition, he was rather gifted. Thus, he would watch his junior brothers and sisters cultivate when perfected Xianxin was busy. Both Yi Ningxi and Qianzhe were not short of Gu Yihan's nagging. Alright, I still have something on. I'll take my leave first. Qianzhe yawned and waved. Similarly, Yi Ningxi took the opportunity and found an excuse to escape. Gu Yihan did not stay on any longer and left after taking the things that he needed. After following Yan Shu around the entire Falling Sky Valley, Yi Qingtang finally returned to her own room. The current Falling Sky Valley was the same as in her memory, just that it was only a few years earlier. Yi Qingtang had stepped into Falling Sky Valley, but she was unaware that there was a storm in the Monarch City because of the black market incident. Covered in dirt, the Dragon Tiger General recounted his encounters with a sullen expression in the Premier's residence. The Nine Knights Dynasty Premier, Qin Long, listened to the Dragon Tiger General's complaints without any emotion. The black market has its rules. Your son did act rashly this time. I know about this already. You can return first. Qin Long waved a hand. The Dragon Tiger General wanted to say something more but did not dare to offend the Premier. He could only wipe his tears as he departed from the Premier's residence. Once the Dragon Tiger General left, Qin Chen, who had been standing aside, silently told his father. If what the Dragon Tiger General said is true, that young man must have a pretty impressive background. When the Dragon Tiger General mentioned the incident in the black market, Qin Chen heard every word of it. The person had the skills of a half-step yin-yang perfected lord and was very young as described by the Dragon Tiger General. His future was beyond measure, and becoming a true yin-yang perfected lord in the future was not an issue. Half-step yin-yang perfected lord. Qin Long narrowed his eyes slightly. Such a powerful figure is indeed rare. Since he came to the monarch city, we must pay attention to him. It would be best if we can make use of this person. If not, judging from his actions, I'm afraid he will be trouble, Qin Chen said. Qin Long nodded. The Dragon Tiger General has already sent someone to draw that person's portrait. Have him send it over sometime soon and take a look at the person's appearance. If possible, employ someone to find out about that person's background, though you must not be exposed. Interact with him if there's a chance. It would be best if he is willing to work for us. Chapter 739, Brewing Storm, 2. Yes. Qin Chen nodded. If a half-step yin-yang perfected lord could be used for oneself, it would naturally be a doubling of might. However, if not, it was a huge latent threat. Ouyang Qian is back in the monarch city now. I heard that she was rather traumatized from the trip to the mystic realm. You can make use of this opportunity and pacify her. Qin Long looked at his son and continued on. The Ouyang family clan has a powerful force in the Nine Knights dynasty, and Ouyang Qian is Ouyang clan master's beloved daughter. Even her other brothers are not as doted on as her. If you can marry Ouyang Qian, it will be extremely beneficial for us in the future. I understand. I've already interacted with her quite a number of times previously. Looking at her attitude, she does have some feelings for me. I believe that this can be accomplished in no time, Qin Chen said slowly, confident that he could take Ouyang Qian down. In the entire Nine Knights dynasty, Qin Chen's position and appearance were considered the cream of the crop, and there was barely anyone who could contest against him. Moreover, his family and Ouyang Qian's were well matched in social status. That will be best. Qin Long nodded slightly. Investigate the background of that half-step yin-yang perfected lord and interact with Ouyang Qian. You must not slacken your efforts in these two matters. The Tiangang sect master has sent someone to confer with me recently, and I will not be able to leave to do anything else in this period of time. Qin Chen nodded with smiles in his eyes. Currently, his father, Qin Long, could be said to hold absolute power in Nine Knights dynasty, and that young emperor was fooled to be extremely obedient. If he could gain the support of Tiangang sect, a super sect, there was no one in the entire Nine Knights dynasty who could shake his father's position. Tiangang sect already has the intention to work with Nine Knights dynasty since some time ago, though the previous emperor was unwilling to. However, it's not something he can control anymore. Qin Long's lips curled into a sneer. Qin Chen did not say anything and seemed to be in thought as he looked at his father's expression. Nine Knights dynasty's previous emperor was in the prime of his life when he suddenly came down with a severe illness, and he had to pass his position down to his son. As for the reason behind the previous emperor's sickness, it was a question to the entire imperial court. However, Qin Chen understood one point. Ever since the previous emperor abdicated, his father had increasing authority in the Nine Knights dynasty, and the young emperor was all the more trustful of his father. Was his father involved in the previous emperor's illness? While Qin Chen was curious, he did not ask about it. Oh right. Fuling City seems to be quite ill-behaved these few months, Qin Long suddenly said. The city lord of Fuling City is an official who served the royal family for a long time. Although he is far from the central authority, he still acts haughtily, Qin Chen said. Didn't he just serve that person before? That person has already disappeared for over 10 years now. Who else in the Nine Knights dynasty remembers her? Since Fuling City is not behaving, let the emperor decree that the city lord of Fuling City makes a trip to the monarch city. As Qin Long spoke, he spread out an imperial decree on his table and wrote a few lines. Afterward, he took out the emperor's jade seal which he carried on him and directly stamped on the imperial decree that he personally wrote. Have someone send it to Fuling City. Yes. Qin Chen received the imperial decree, and a scoff flashed across his eyes. Chapter 740 Brewing Storm, 3. There was an abundance of spirit energy in Falling Sky Valley, and Yi Qingtang's speed of cultivation advancement was way faster than when she was in Xianling sect. However, she was already a half-step yin-yang perfected lord now, and it was still insufficient if she wanted to enter the true yin-yang perfected Lord state in a short time. However, the time left for her was not a lot. Xianling sect's defense would disappear in just a few months. By then, Yunshao sect would definitely not let Xianling sect off. Given Yi Qingtang's current skills, although she could look down upon the group of people from Yunshao sect, it was not enough to contend against the entire Yunshao sect just by herself. Only by entering the yin-yang perfected Lord could she truly resolve Xianling sect's crisis. Furthermore, Yi Qingtang looked up at the familiar scenery in Falling Sky Valley. In her previous life, her master, perfected Xianchen, became the acting valley master, which attracted the dissatisfaction with various peaks. Although her master maintained the harmony within the valley with all his might and tolerated many things in consideration of the overall situation, he was suppressed by the other peak masters not long later and was forced to give up the position of the acting valley master. Because of that, Falling Sky Valley became segregated and ultimately was met with a calamity. It was also at that time when her master was killed by Yiyu. After a rebirth, Yi Qingtang had long seen that the different peak masters had their own designs and that her master was the only one who would maintain the harmony within the valley. This was also the reason why the old valley master handed the acting valley master position to her master from the start. In this life, Yi Qingtang would never let such an incident happen again. She would not allow anyone to force her master into giving up the valley master position. Although she could suppress all the Falling Sky Valley disciples with her current skills, it was still insufficient against the peak masters. Falling Sky Valley had 12 peaks, and most of the peak masters were in the yin-yang perfected Lord state. Furthermore, the 3 peak masters who forced her master in giving up the valley master position were all yin lords of the yin-yang perfected Lord state. If Yi Qingtang did not want the tragedy from her previous life to happen again, the only option was to enter the yin-yang perfected Lord state as quickly as possible. With various urgent matters staring at her in the face, Yi Qingtang increasingly felt the need to raise her skills rapidly. At that thought, Yi Qingtang immediately thought of the dragon vein which Master Du told her about. If the dragon vein was really like what Master Du said, perhaps it would be a chance for her skills to increase as quickly as possible. At that thought, Yi Qingtang no longer had any more hesitation. She immediately brought the little white tiger and silver wolf out of Falling Sky Valley and headed towards the Bliss Forging Workshop. Just as Yi Qingtang was about to leave Falling Sky Valley, the few Blue Cloud Peak disciples whom she beat up that day were complaining tearfully to a tall youth. Eldest senior brother, Admirable Sky Peak went too far in bullying us. That Yichen fellow was just accepted as a disciple by perfected Xianchen and was already this arrogant to casually beat people up in the valley. Eldest senior brother, you must help us. It isn't anything for us to suffer from injustice, but that Yichen clearly did not have any regard for us Blue Cloud Peak disciples. Although we were beaten up, he attacked us publicly and did not spare any face for our Blue Cloud Peak. Those Blue Cloud Peak disciples echoed after each other and completely left out the incident where they stole Xing Qianya's belonging first, wishing they could make Yi Qingtang's evil conduct public. The male standing before them frowned slightly, and a trace of unhappiness could be seen on his good-looking face. Chapter 741 Causing Trouble 1. This person was Li Jingwen, and he was the eldest disciple of Blue Cloud Peak's Peak Master. Among all the Blue Cloud Peak disciples, he was the most skilled. Li Jingwen's eyes swept across those junior brothers. When he saw the bruises on their faces, a sharp look flashed across his eyes. Really a useless bunch. You all actually got beaten up by a fellow who just entered the valley and still have the face to come and complain. Those disciples trembled after being shouted at by Li Jingwen. Li Jingwen narrowed his eyes and spoke slowly. Since Admirable Sky Peak has such an ill-behaved person, Blue Cloud Peak will not be that easygoing either. You all will go to Admirable Sky Peak with me. Those Blue Cloud Peak disciples' eyes brightened immediately, and they followed Li Jingwen. Blue Cloud Peak and Admirable Sky Peak had not been on good terms for a long time. Moreover, the Blue Cloud Peak's Peak Master fully supported Full Moon Peak's Peak Master as the acting Valley Master when the old Valley Master was recuperating back then. Unexpectedly, The position ultimately landed to Admirable Sky Peak's Peak Master, Perfected Xianxin. Ever since Perfected Xianxin became the Valley Master, Blue Cloud Peak's Peak Master instructed his disciples to draw a clear line between them and Admirable Sky Peak. Although Perfected Xianxin was the current Peak Master, both Blue Cloud Peak and Watercut Peak, with Full Moon Peak as their leader, completely ignored Perfected Xuanxin's plans and even turned a deaf ear to Perfected Xuanxin's orders. In Admirable Sky Peak, Yin Qing Luo, Yan Shu, and others were watching the other disciples in the peak cultivate. Ever since their master became the Valley Master, he had much less time to discipline his disciples, and disciples who became apprenticed to him earlier began to be responsible for the other disciples' cultivation. Junior brother Sheng, do you feel better over the past 2 days? Yin Qing Luo looked at Sheng Qinyu and asked. Thanks for your concern, senior sister Yin. I'm much better already. Sheng Qianyu's face flushed a little as he nodded. Yin Qing Luo chuckled and turned to look at Yan Shu. Senior brother Yan, eldest senior brother, is not in the valley today. Senior brother Qian and the rest left the valley to laze around too, and they pushed these things on us instead. Yan Shu sighed helplessly. He was about to say something but saw a disciple rushing over anxiously. Senior brother Yan, Li Jingwen of Blue Cloud Peak, suddenly came to our Admirable Sky Peak. Yan Shu was slightly stunned. Li Jingwen. Yan Shu and Yin Qing Luo exchanged a look immediately, seeing a trace of confusion in each other's eyes. Li Jingwen was the top disciple of Blue Cloud Peak's Peak Master and had never looked at Admirable Sky Peak's disciples in the eye, much less step into the Admirable Sky Peak. Why did he suddenly run over to Admirable Sky Peak today then? What is Li Jingwen here for? Yin Qing Luo asked with a frown. Yan Shu shook his head. Blue Cloud Peak and our Admirable Sky Peak have been on bad terms for a long time. Li Jingwen's skills improved greatly over the 2 years. Now that eldest senior brother is not here, we must be more careful. Li Jingwen's skills were not to be trifled with. Among all the Admirable Sky Peak disciples, Gu Yihan was the only one who could contend with him. Yin Qing Luo nodded. As they conversed, Li Jingwen had already walked over with some people behind him. When Yin Qing Luo and Yan Shu saw the Blue Cloud Peak disciples following behind Li Jingwen, their brows furrowed automatically. Aren't those disciples the fellows who wanted to snag junior brother Sheng's item? Why are they here as well? Yin Qing Luo frowned as an inauspicious feeling rose within her. Chapter 742, Causing Trouble, 2. Yan Shu noticed those Blue Cloud Peak disciples as well. Those people failed to steal Sheng Qianyu's things and even ended being beaten up by Yi Qingtang that day. Then, Yan Shu already felt that this matter would not end just like that. Now, well, wait and see, Yan Shu said cautiously and walked towards Li Jingwen with Yin Qing Luo. In Admirable Sky Peak, those disciples who were still cultivating could not help but stop whatever they were doing when they saw Li Jingwen and a group of Blue Cloud Peak disciples. Confusion and puzzlement filled their eyes as they looked at those Blue Cloud Peak disciples. Why are the Blue Cloud Peak people here at our Admirable Sky Peak today? Who knows? Isn't that Blue Cloud Peak's top disciple, Li Jingwen? Why is he here too? Admirable Sky Peak disciples long knew about the unfriendly relations between the two peaks, and both peaks' disciples were irked with each other when they met in the valley. Furthermore, after their peak master, Perfected Xianxin, became the acting Valley Master, the relations between the two peaks worsened. However, they were warned by Perfected Xianxin to not enter a strife with Blue Cloud Peak, and they could only endure it silently even if they suffered unjustly. Yet, unexpectedly, Blue Cloud Peak's top disciple actually brought people to their Admirable Sky Peak today. In the crowd, Sheng Qianyu's heart trembled when he saw Li Jingwen and those familiar figures. On the other side, Yan Shu and Yin Qing Luo had already walked to Li Jingwen. Li Jingwen was Blue Cloud Peak's top disciple, and he entered the valley earlier than Yan Shu and Yin Qing Luo, thus, both of them had to address him as Senior Brother. Senior Brother Li. Yan Shu greeted politely. Li Jingwen stood firmly with no intention of bothering with Yan Shu and said coldly, "Where is your Admirable Sky Peak Xichen? Call him out." Yen Shu was slightly taken aback. Yi Chen had only entered the valley for a few days and should not have come into contact with Li Jingwen. Why was Li Jingwen looking for him suddenly? When Yen Shu saw those Blue Cloud Peak disciples behind Li Jingwen, he more or less knew what was going on. Junior brother Yi is not in the valley today. He left the valley this morning. May I know what you're finding him for, senior brother Li? Yen Shu asked while maintaining his composure. Not here? Is he really not here, or does he not dare to come out? Li Jingwen laughed coldly. Junior brother Yi left the valley earlier today. If senior brother Li has something for him, why don't you let us know first? We will help you to relay the message, Yin Qingluo said immediately. I indeed have something to look for him for. Li Jingwen looked at Yin Qingluo, and his lips curled into a sneer. A few days ago, he injured the Blue Cloud Peak disciples for no reason. He must give me an explanation for this. As expected, Yen Shu and Yin Qingluo understood what Li Jingwen was here for immediately. Upon hearing Li Jingwen's words, the other Admirable Sky Peak disciples whispered to one another. How long has Yi Chen been in Falling Sky Valley? Why did he beat up the Blue Cloud Peak disciples? Valley Master warned us repeatedly not to dispute with other peaks' disciples, but he already stirred up these troubles when he just entered the valley. The Admirable Sky Peak disciples were dissatisfied. Although Yi Qingtang entered the valley for days, she rarely appeared before them. Thus, although they had seen her face, they did not have any contact with her. Chapter 743, Causing Trouble, 3. The Admirable Sky Peak disciples had only heard that Yi Qingtang used the back door to be apprenticed to the Valley Master and that her spirit root was not as good as some ordinary disciples. They did not have any ties with Yi Qingtang from the start, and now that they saw Yi Qingtang stirring these troubles, many Admirable Sky Peak disciples felt conflicted about that new Valley Master's disciple. Only Sheng Qinyu showed a trace of nervousness and bewilderment. Others did not know why Yi Qingtang offended these Blue Cloud Peak people, but he was more than clear. Yi Qingtang clearly did it for him. However, never would Sheng Qinyu have thought that this matter would actually offend Blue Cloud Peak's top disciple, Li Jingwen. It should be known that Li Jingwen was extremely skilled, and in the entire Admirable Sky Peak, only their eldest senior brother, Gu Yihan, could contend against him. No, senior brother Yi. Senior brother Yi. Sheng Qinyu tried to explain to the other disciples beside him, but he did not have any presence in the peak, and no one would hear him with all their attention focused on Li Jingwen. Yen Shu knew Li Jingwen's motive of coming here, but he tried to maintain a calm expression on his face. We will let junior brother Yi know about this. When he returns, he will find you to give you an explanation. Let him know. Li Jingwen arched his brows as he sized up Yen Shu. This is how perfected Xianxun teaches his disciples? Since you Admirable Sky Peak does not have any regard for Blue Cloud Peak, there's no need for us to be polite anymore. Once Li Jingwen finished his sentence, his left hand suddenly balled into a fist and crashed into Yen Shu's chest. Yen Shu did not expect Li Jingwen to strike suddenly and was completely defenseless. Moreover, Li Jingwen's skills were above his, and his fist directly landed on Yen Shu's chest, which sent him flying out. Senior brother Yen. Yin Qingluo did not think that Li Jingwen would be so truculent and unreasonable. When she saw Yen Shu collapse on the ground and struggling to stand up, she instinctively clutched onto the sword at her waist. Junior sister Yin. Do not. Yen Shu supported himself up with difficulty and hurriedly stopped Yin Qingluo from attacking. The knuckles of Yin Qingluo's hand which gripped the sword whitened. Your Admirable Sky Peak is impertinent in this matter first. Since you all can attack disciples from other peaks in the valley so casually, you all should be able to tolerate these yourselves, right? Li Jingwen laughed coldly. Looking at Yin Qingluo who wanted to unsheath her sword, there was no regret on his face, and he was more arrogant instead. Li Jingwen, don't go too far in bullying others. Yin Qingluo gritted her teeth as she glared at Li Jingwen. It was clearly their Blue Cloud Peak disciples who caused troubles over and over again, but they were playing the blame game now. Go too far in bullying others? I am bullying you all today. So what? A sneer flashed across Li Jingwen's eyes. Anyways, his master had been dissatisfied with perfected Xianxin for a long time, and he could use this opportunity to teach the admirable Sky Peak people a lesson. There was nothing to be scared of. Then, Li Jingwen suddenly attacked Yin Qingluo. Yin Qingluo unsheathed her sword immediately, but Li Jingwen's skills were way above hers. Before she could make a move, Li Jingwen had already kicked Yin Qingluo away. Chapter 744. Causing Trouble, 4. A sneer emerged on Li Jingwen's face when he saw the Admirable Sky Peak disciples unsheath their swords. In the entire Admirable Sky Peak, only the top disciple, Gu Yihan, could defeat him. Now that perfected Xianxin became the acting Valley Master and had the intention of training Gu Yihan to be the next Peak Master of Admirable Sky Peak, even if Gu Yihan was present today, given Gu Yihan's identity, it was inconvenient for him to interfere in the learning exchange between disciples. Great. I'll teach you all a good lesson today. A cold glint flashed across Li Jingwen's eyes, and he immediately drew his sword out before charging towards the Admirable Sky Peak disciples. The other Blue Cloud Peak disciples had a proud look when they saw Li Jingwen striking. Li Jingwen's skills were amazing and were not what these ordinary Admirable Sky Peak disciples could contend against. In just the blink of an eye, many disciples were beaten to the ground by Li Jingwen. Yan Shu and Yin Qingluo were about to attack Li Jingwen when they saw the sight. Call eldest senior brother over quickly. Before Yin Qingluo attacked, she immediately grabbed an Admirable Sky Peak disciple and said, Gu Yihan was not in the peak today, and Li Jingwen had already attacked. Only by calling eldest senior brother back could they suppress Li Jingwen. After hearing that disciple hurried off to search for Gu Yihan. Yin Qingluo and Yan Shu joined hands and blocked Li Jingwen's move directly, giving the other disciples who were injured by Li Jingwen the chance for a breather. Li Jingwen, are you here today just to stir up trouble? Yin Qingluo berated. Li Jingwen's brows were cocked up slightly as he scoffed. So what if I am? Since Yi Chen from your Admirable Sky Peak can injure my Blue Cloud Peak disciples, why can't I beat you all up? As he spoke, Li Jingwen directly launched an attack at Yin Qingluo's face. Careful, junior sister Yin. Yan Shu pulled Yin Qingluo over and used his sword to block Li Jingwen's attack. However, a loud clank erupted when they clashed, and a cut was slashed on Yan Shu's fingers from the impact. In just an instant, Yin Qingluo and Yan Shu were locked in combat with Li Jingwen. The other Admirable Sky Peak disciples were extremely anxious as they watched. Given their skills, they were simply not Li Jingwen's opponent, and over 10 people were injured by Li Jingwen in a short while just now. Where's Yi Chen? This matter is started by him, but he is nowhere to be found and implicated us to suffer for nothing. The Admirable Sky Peak disciples' expressions were extremely ugly when they saw the sight. If Yi Qingtang did not offend the Blue Cloud Peak people, why would they be implicated? Sheng Qinyu was extremely anxious. He was the clearest about the cause of this incident and was even more anxious when he heard the others complaining about Yi Qingtang. However, no one would listen no matter how much he explained now. When Sheng Qinyu saw that Yin Qingluo and Yan Shu could not defeat Li Jingwen, he gritted his teeth quietly and immediately charged forward. It was already extremely strenuous for Yin Qingluo and Yan Shu to focus on receiving Li Jingwen's moves, and there were many injuries on them by then. Before they could react in time, they suddenly saw Sheng Qinyu rushing in. Junior brother Sheng. Yin Qingluo was alarmed. Sheng Qinyu was already in front of Li Jingwen. Li Jingwen did not even bat Sheng Qinyu an eye and slashed at Sheng Qinyu with a sword directly. That attack struck Sheng Qianyu's shoulder, and a cut that was half a meter deep extended from his shoulder to his body. Chapter 745. Causing Trouble, 5. In an instant, there was blood spurting out. Scarlet blood scattered down as if it was raining. Shock was etched all over Sheng Qianyu's fair and clear face. The excruciating pain on his shoulder pierced through his nerves. He looked at Li Jingwen wide-eyed as his body crashed on the ground. Li Jingwen looked at Sheng Qinyu coldly without a slight trace of pity in his eyes. He was just a mere ordinary disciple in a peak, yet he still dared to come forward. If this was not courting death, what was? Yin Qingluo and Yen Shu were appalled when they saw Sheng Qinyu on the ground. You admirable Sky Peak disciples really don't have any manners. An ordinary disciple also wished to come up and court death. Li Jingwen let out a chuckle, contempt evident in his tone. He flicked the remaining blood on his blade away and pointed his sword at Yin Qingluo and Yen Shu. Which of you wants to be next? You. Yin Qingluo's expression was extremely ugly as she gritted her teeth, wanting to behead the wildly arrogant Li Jingwen. However, junior sister Yin backed down. A deep voice suddenly rang. Yin Qingluo and the rest turned around to see that Gu Yihan was already behind them from some time ago. Eldest senior brother. A grief and refusal filled Yin Qingluo's eyes as she looked at Gu Yihan, who appeared suddenly. Gu Yihan walked to Li Jingwen's front. When he saw Sheng Qinyu, who collapsed on the ground and was bleeding profusely, his brows furrowed. Bring him to receive treatment. The other admirable Sky Peak disciples hurriedly came forward upon hearing that, wanting to bring Sheng Qinyu away from the scene. Sheng Qinyu was already fuzzy by then as he vaguely saw Gu Yihan's figure. When he was carried past Gu Yihan, he suddenly reached for Gu Yihan's sleeves with his blood-filled hands. Eldest senior brother? This matter has nothing to do with senior brother. He did it for me. Sheng Qianya's hands trembled as he looked at Gu Yihan with a strain. There was a look of seriousness in Gu Yihan's eyes. He slowly pulled Sheng Qianya's hand away and nodded at the disciples supporting Sheng Qinyu. Then, Sheng Qinyu, who was losing consciousness, was brought away. There was not a slight trace of fear on Li Jingwen's face as he looked at Gu Yihan, who suddenly appeared, and his lips curled up instead. Gu Yihan looked at Li Jingwen coldly with narrowed eyes. At this instant, the admirable Sky Peak disciples were extremely expectant as they looked at Gu Yihan's back view. It was as though they had a pillar at this very moment, and they dearly hoped that their eldest senior brother could return them justice. However, Gu Yihan took a deep breath, forcefully suppressing the anger in him, and looked at Li Jingwen. Junior brother Li, are you done causing trouble? Li Jingwen shrugged and said, Senior brother Gu, what you said does not make sense. How is it that I caused trouble today? If Yi Chen from your admirable Sky Peak did not attack first that day, why would I come to admirable Sky Peak to seek justice for my junior brothers? When Li Jingwen said that, the Blue Cloud Peak disciples who came with him immediately put on a weak front. When the admirable Sky Peak disciples saw those Blue Cloud Peak disciples feigning frailness, they almost could not stop themselves from running forward and skinning them alive. Chapter 746, Causing Trouble. 6. Weren't they very arrogant and flaunting their prowess when they were behind Li Jingwen just now? Yet they were acting pitiful now. Eldest senior brother, for this matter, Yin Qingluo wanted to say something to Gu Yihan when she saw how shameless Li Jingwen and the other Blue Cloud Peak disciples were. However, Gu Yihan raised his hand and stopped Yin Qingluo from finishing her sentence. Junior brother Li, Yi Chen is not in the valley today. When he returns, I will interrogate him myself. If you don't have anything else today, you can head back first, junior brother Li, Gu Yihan said coldly. As he finished speaking, his hand that hung beside him seemed to touch the sword handle at his waist casually. Li Jingwen sharply noticed Gu Yihan's action, and his eyes flickered. If Gu Yihan really attacked, he was probably not Gu Yihan's opponent. Li Jingwen pondered for a moment and finally said, Since that is what you want, I'll give you face today. However, my junior brothers sustained rather heavy injuries. Yi Chen attacked first and has to give our Blue Cloud Peak an explanation no matter what. In addition, he has to compensate for the loss of my junior brothers. I'll relay the message, Gu Yihan said in a deep tone. Li Jingwen smiled as he reached his objective. Subsequently, he turned around and led those Blue Cloud Peak disciples away, not forgetting to leave a sentence before leaving. Senior brother Gu, your admirable Sky Peak disciples are merely like that? Yin Qingluo clenched her teeth tightly as she watched Li Jingwen and the rest leave. Eldest senior brother, why did you let them go just like that? They injured so many admirable Sky Peak disciples. Do we let them off just like that? Yin Qingluo could no longer hold herself back. Gui Han looked at the exasperated Yin Qingluo, who burst into a fury, but he did not say anything. Then, he looked at those injured Admirable Sky Peak disciples, and a constrained expression was increasingly evident in his eyes. Do you think this only involves the Blue Cloud Peak? Gui Han asked. Yin Qingluo was slightly stunned. Yen Shu sighed helplessly and patted Yin Qingluo's shoulder. Junior sister Yin, eldest senior brother, has his own reasons for doing this. He paused for a moment and continued, Blue Cloud Peak and Watercut Peak have always been on friendly terms with Full Moon Peak, which is the most powerful peak in Falling Sky Valley. When Master became the acting Valley Master back then, it attracted the dissatisfaction of the peak masters of these three peaks. Full Moon Peak's peak master has been trying to find a chance to launch an attack on Master, but as of now, it was to no avail. Master did not want us to stir troubles because he did not want to ruin the harmony in Falling Sky Valley. If this matter is blown up, Watercut Peak and Full Moon Peak would also participate in this, much less Blue Cloud Peak. By then, Falling Sky Valley would be chaotic. Eldest senior brother also had no choice but to do this. Yen Shu's tone was rather helpless. Taking the big picture into consideration, they, Admirable Sky Peak disciples, could only give in to others again and again. Yin Qingluo pursed her lips. Although she understood the reason for this injustice stifled her. Do we have to keep conniving them just like that? Yin Qingluo threw her sword on the ground furiously and left. Although she knew that this was a stopgap measure, how could she swallow this grievance down? Yen Shu felt extremely helpless as he watched Yin Qingluo leave. However, he adjusted his emotions very quickly and told Gui Han, Eldest senior brother, you can do whatever you need to do first. I can settle the things here. Chapter 747. Get the hell out. 1. Gui Han nodded his head silently. The Admirable Sky Peak disciples were originally boiling with anger because of Li Jingwen, but now, they felt powerless after hearing what Yen Shu said. Li Jingwen is simply relying on the fact that Watercut Peak and Full Moon Peak are backing Blue Cloud Peak. They are merely emboldened by the support. Valley Master has just taken up the post and has his own worries. In the end, it's all Yi Chen's fault. Although other peaks stirred trouble occasionally, it didn't blow up so big like this. Who said it isn't? It was already an exception for him to be apprenticed to the Valley Master. He has only entered the valley for a while, yet he has already caused such huge trouble for our Admirable Sky Peak and implicated so many fellow disciples. It would be better for such an ill-mannered person to be kicked out of the valley as soon as possible. The disciples did not dare to make any dissent about the Valley Master and thus vented their unhappiness on Yi Qingtang. Those who were already displeased with Yi Qingtang using other means to be apprenticed to perfected Xianxin were even more irritated with her now. Stop talking already. Hurry up and treat your injuries if you have to. For the others, continue on with your cultivation, Yen Shu said with a headache. He also sustained plenty of injuries earlier on and was also very vexed currently. Yi Qingtang went to the Bliss Forging Workshop to talk with Master Du about the Dragon Vein, but he was not present today. Then she asked Du Sheng to relay the message to Master Du and returned to Falling Sky Valley. However, the moment she stepped into Admirable Sky Peak, she sensed that there was something off with the atmosphere. While the peak's disciples were not friendly to her previously, they still forced a greeting on account that she was perfected Zuanshan's disciple. Yet, currently, as Yi Qingtang walked in Admirable Sky Peak, she saw that all the disciples did not utter a word to her and that they looked at her with intense repulsion and resentment. What happened? She only went out for half a day, yet why do the Admirable Sky Peak disciples look at her as though they wanted to devour her? When she arrived at the cultivation field, she smelled a faint smell of blood. The instant some injured disciples saw her, their eyes shot her a sharp look. Junior brother Yi, you're back? Yen Shu, who was guiding the disciples in their cultivation, saw that Yi Qingtang returned and immediately walked to her. Senior brother Yen, what happened to you? Yi Qingtang's eyes were filled with shock when she saw Yen Shu, who had bruises on his face and a bandaged arm. What happened to Yan Shu? Why is he injured all over? Yan Shu's expression stiffened a little. Taking a deep breath, he said, Li Jingwen from the Blue Cloud Peak came here just now. Li Jingwen. Yi Qingtang arched a brow. She knew of Li Jingwen from her previous life. He was the top disciple of Blue Cloud Peak's peak master and had a frivolous and arrogant nature. A few years later, Li Jingwen's skills advanced by leaps and bounds to the point that he even showed signs of surpassing Guihan. That's right. He came to Admirable Sky Peak to find you for you to give him an explanation. Yan Shu nodded. What explanation should I give him? Yi Qingtang chuckled. Perhaps it was this chuckle that ignited the Admirable Sky Peak disciple's displeasure. A disciple with bruises on his face immediately stopped cultivating and darted to Yi Qingtang's front. Why are you still acting innocent here? If you didn't injure those Blue Cloud Peak disciples that day, why would Li Jingwen come today? Chapter 748, Get the Hell Out too. Yi Qingtang was blanking out. That disciple continued venting. Do you know how many fellow disciples suffered just because you attacked them that day? Li Jingwen came knocking on our door today but could not find you, so he beat up so many of fellow disciples. Even senior sister Yin and senior brother Yan were injured by him, yet you still don't talk anymore. Yan Shu stopped that disciple with a low voice. However, Yi Qingtang heard each and every word. In just a moment, the smile on Yi Qingtang's face disappeared without a trace. Senior brother Yan, what happened exactly? Yi Qingtang asked Yan Shu. Yan Shu hesitated for a moment. Knowing that Yi Qingtang would know about this matter sooner or later, he no longer hid it and told Yi Qingtang everything about Li Jingwen coming to cause trouble. We are still okay, but junior brother Xing's injuries are more severe, and he still hasn't regained consciousness. Coldness flashed across Yi Qingtang's eyes, and she narrowed her eyes. All of a sudden, she turned around and walked away. An Admirable Sky Peak disciple scorned. He knows that he caused trouble now and wants to hide now. Stupefied, Yan Shu said immediately, Junior brother Yi, where are you going? Yi Qingtang paused in her tracks but did not look back. Didn't Li Jingwen want me to give him an explanation? I'm going to give him an explanation. Then Yi Qingtang immediately headed towards Blue Cloud Peak. Yan Shu felt a little complicated upon hearing that. If Yi Qingtang could swallow her pride and apologize to Li Jingwen, perhaps this matter could be over. It was just that, when he thought of Li Jingwen's actions today, Yan Shu's heart could not be at ease. Even if Yi Qingtang apologized, Li Jingwen would probably not accept it so easily. Although Yan Shu did not like this new junior brother, he could not leave him alone either. He directly ordered other disciples to cultivate by themselves, and he wanted to chase after Yi Qingtang. Senior brother Yan, why do you still care about him? Isn't this trouble that he caused for us big enough? A disciple said resentfully. Yan Shu did not reply and directly chased after Yi Qingtang. The silver wolf beside Yi Qingtang clearly sensed a trace of murderous air from Yi Qingtang. The little white tiger snickered. The Admirable Sky Peak disciples are extremely foolish. Do they really think that everything will subside just by exercising forbearance? In my opinion, this falling sky valley is also as messy as a pot of porridge. By making concessions like that perfected Xianxin is merely inflating the morale of other peaks. Yi Qingtang did not say anything and walked straight to Blue Cloud Peak. On the Blue Cloud Peak, a group of Blue Cloud Peak disciples were gathered together in between the breaks of cultivation to chat. You all didn't see how impressive our eldest senior brother was at Admirable Sky Peak. Those Admirable Sky Peak disciples didn't even dare to let out a fart in front of eldest senior brother and were extremely fearful like cowards. That's right. With just their dilettante-ish skills, how are they eldest senior brother's opponent? Yin Qingluo and Yan Shu joined forces but could not even counterattack when they fought eldest senior brother. So much for being perfected Zuanshan's disciples. Admirable Sky Peak's Gu Yihan came, but what's the use? Even when he saw his fellow disciples being beaten up, didn't he still have to be polite and courteous? That's unlike our eldest senior brother who directly charged there after knowing that we suffered. That's called impressive. Chapter 749, Get the Hell Out 3. The disciples who followed Li Jingwen to Admirable Sky Peak today recounted Li Jingwen's impressive manner to their fellow disciples, who listened with great interest. Luckily, that Yi Qin is not in the valley today. Otherwise, if eldest senior brother shot a look at him, he would probably pee in his pants from fear. It really is like what eldest senior brother said. Admirable Sky Peak disciples are merely like that. Just as the Blue Cloud Peak disciples were gathered together, a figure suddenly arrived at Blue Cloud Peak. Those disciples who were still chatting immediately stopped talking when they saw the elegant figure in front of them. Yi Qin, a Blue Cloud Peak disciple who was beaten up by Yi Qingtang before recognized Yi Qingtang with a look. Then, the Blue Cloud Peak disciples looked at Yi Qingtang with daggers in their eyes. Yi Qin, what are you doing here at Blue Cloud Peak? But, have you thought it through? Do you know that you're in the wrong already? So you came here to apologize? You're sensible. If you still don't know what's good for you, our eldest senior brother will take good care of you. The Blue Cloud Peak disciples were extremely arrogant. Looking at Yi Qingtang, who came to them herself, they immediately thought that she was frightened out of her wits by their eldest senior brother's actions and that she rushed over frantically to apologize. Yi Qingtang looked at the Blue Cloud Peak disciples coldly, and a slight sneer seemed to play on her lips. Where's Li Jingwen? Fellow, you wish to meet our eldest senior brother? Do you have the qualifications to? Since you're here to apologize, you should have an apologetic attitude. Where do you think this is? This is Blue Cloud Peak. We don't care whose disciple you are. In our Blue Cloud Peak, who do you think you are? How dare you call our eldest senior brother's name? A few Blue Cloud Peak disciples remarked cynically. Hearing the Blue Cloud Peak disciples' scorns from afar, Yan Shu picked up his pace and hurried to Yi Qingtang's side. Junior brother Yi. He originally intended for Yi Qingtang to apologize to Li Jingwen and those Blue Cloud Peak disciples symbolically, but he did not expect Yi Qingtang to go to Blue Cloud Peak personally. The scornful comments of those Blue Cloud Peak disciples were especially jarring, and he only hoped that Yi Qingtang could put an end to this matter quickly. This matter would be over if she just endured it for a moment. However, Yi Qingtang swept a cold glance at those incessant Blue Cloud Peak disciples, and a glint passed her eyes. Tell Li Jingwen to get the hell out. The Blue Cloud Peak disciples were stunned to hear what Yi Qingtang said. Even Yan Shu's face froze for a moment as well. What did she say? Tell Li Jingwen to get the hell out? Is she not here to apologize? Yan Shu sensed that there seemed to be something wrong, but before he could say anything, the Blue Cloud Peak disciples exploded in anger. What a great Yi Qin! How dare you speak so wildly in our Blue Cloud Peak? Your skin must be really itching. But your Admirable Sky Peak disciples are not beaten up enough by our eldest senior brother? You're here to ask for a beating? They had seen people who did not want their lives anymore, but not one who was so hurried to court death. This Yi Qin was actually so bold to provoke them on their Blue Cloud Peak turf. Then, the Blue Cloud Peak disciples' expression darkened immediately, and they immediately charged at Yi Qingtang with swords wielded in their hands. Chapter 750 Beaten Up 1. Seeing that there was something wrong with the situation, Yan Shu instinctively pulled Yi Qingtang back. He originally thought that she was here to apologize and did not think that this fellow would be so hot-tempered. She was clearly here to start a fight. However, before Yan Shu could pull Yi Qingtang, a snicker suddenly sounded. Everyone stop. When the Blue Cloud Peak disciples heard that, they stopped whatever they were doing immediately and looked in the direction of the sound. Li Jingwen was actually standing there since some time ago. With hands behind him, his lips curled into a scoff as he looked straight at Yi Qingtang, who was standing not far away. I was wondering which reckless person dared to come to the Blue Cloud Peak to cause a ruckus. Li Jingwen scoffed coldly. Yan Shu's heart sank immediately when he saw Li Jingwen. He originally wanted to bring Yi Qingtang away quickly. He did not think that he was still one step late as Li Jingwen was already here. Yan Shu knew that there was trouble when he saw Li Jingwen. When Li Jingwen was in Admirable Sky Peak, his attacks were already ruthless. Now, they were on Blue Cloud Peak's turf, and Yi Qingtang was impudent. He was afraid that senior brother Li. Yan Shu suppressed his worry and hurriedly greeted before Yi Qingtang said anything. Li Jingwen cast a nonchalant look at Yan Shu. When he caught sight of the bruise on Yan Shu's face, he smiled faintly. What is it? Junior brother Yan, was our interdisciple learning not enough? So you brought people here to continue seeking torture? Yan Shu's expression darkened. Based on skills, he was indeed not Li Jingwen's opponent, but no one would feel good to be publicly ridiculed by Li Jingwen. Yan Shu took a deep breath, straining himself to calm down the anger in him. Senior brother Li, you've misunderstood. Yi Chen just returned and knew that what he did previously was wrong. Thus, he is here to give you an explanation. He is Yi Chen? Li Jingwen raised a brow as he swept a look at the handsome young man behind Yan Shu. A trace of mockery flashed across his eyes as he said, explanation? No matter how I see, he doesn't seem to be here to give me an explanation. A few Blue Cloud Peak disciples immediately gathered to Li Jingwen's side. Eldest senior brother. This Yi Chen is not here to apologize and is clearly here to cause trouble. He still shouted for you to get the hell out here. For me to get the hell out? Li Jingwen's expression darkened immediately, and he shot a sharp look straight at Yi Qingtang. Yan Shu hurriedly explained. Junior brother Yi is young. If he offended you, please don't take offense, senior brother Li. Junior brother Yan, I know that this Yi Chen is the disciple who your master just accepted. Since he has become a Falling Sky Valley disciple, he is no longer a kid. Does he not know how to say a single word? Do you have to take the trouble on his behalf? If he is this useless, what did perfected Xianxun accept him for? Li Jingwen chuckled and said right after. It was a slip of the tongue. This fellow could be apprenticed to perfected Xianxun not because of his mouth or his skills, but because he offered a gift that satisfied perfected Xianxun. Yan Shu's expression turned ugly immediately. He could tolerate anything but not any slander towards perfected Xianxun. Senior brother Li. Li Jingwen suddenly raised a hand and cut Yan Shu's sentence. Yi Chen, is it? You injured several Blue Cloud Peak disciples previously. If you publicly kowtow to them, admit your mistakes, and compensate them with some elixirs, this matter can be considered to be over. If you're unwilling, as a senior brother, I will not mind to teach you since Admirable Sky Peak does not know how to teach their disciples. Chapter 751, Beaten Up, 2. When Li Jingwen said that, the Blue Cloud Peak disciples had a complacent expression on their faces as they looked at Yi Qingtang and Yan Shu in disdain. Yan Shu never expected Li Jingwen to be so overboard. He was about to say something, but Yi Qingtang suddenly walked forward and shut Yan Shu up. Yi Qingtang's lips curled up, and she scoffed coldly while looking at the Li Jingwen with head held high. Are you all done? Who sent him here today to apologize? Li Jingwen, if you want me to apologize, win against me first. When Yi Qingtang said that, all the Blue Cloud Peak disciples were completely dumbfounded. In the next second, everyone looked at the reckless Yi Qingtang unbelievably. What is she saying? Is she crazy? With her dilettante-ish skills, she still dares to yell at eldest senior brother? Li Jingwen was delighted. Yi Chen, you do talk big. Since you really don't know how to appreciate favors, there's no need for me to be polite with you anymore. Since you wish for us to learn from each other, I'll play with you then. Then, the Blue Cloud Peak disciples beside Li Jingwen retreated immediately and grinned as they looked at Yi Qingtang, who courted death. Yan Shu was completely dumbfounded. He did not think that Yi Qingtang would be so bold. Li Jingwen was the #1 disciple in Blue Cloud Peak. There were only a few people out of the tens of thousands of disciples in Falling Sky Valley who could win against Li Jingwen. Yan Shu wanted to persuade Yi Qingtang out of it, but she did not even intend on giving him a chance to speak. She immediately took a step forward and announced, "Make your move." Li Jingwen looked at Yi Qingtang with a raised brow. He had seen people who wanted to die, but not one who wanted to die so bad. She actually let him make the first move? Eldest senior brother, don't go easy on her. This fellow clearly has it coming. The Blue Cloud Peak disciples hooted, eager to see Yi Qingtang being beaten up by Li Jingwen. Li Jingwen did not spare any talk with Yi Qingtang and drew his sword out immediately. Suddenly, an overbearing sword aura was injected on his blade in just a moment. Yan Shu's heart rose up to his throat. Looking at the light blue sword aura on Li Jingwen's blade, Yan Shu was alarmed by the impending trouble. Li Jingwen actually executed the Cold Winter Sword aura, which the Blue Cloud Peak's Peak Master created at his first move. The Cold Winter Sword aura was Blue Cloud Peak's Peak Master exquisite skill which had an extremely shocking lethality. When injured by the sword aura, the cut would immediately freeze, and the bitter poison in the sword aura would subsequently enter the person's body. Li Jingwen had already mastered 70% of this Cold Winter Sword aura, and using it now was evident that he was not going to spare any mercy. "Junior brother Yi, be careful!" Yan Shu shrieked in alarm. The moment he spoke, Li Jingwen had already turned into a bolt of blue light as though he became one with the Cold Winter Sword aura, and he dashed towards Yi Qingtang. The faint blue ray had a bone-piercing cold air, and the temperature in the air dropped. Yi Qingtang stood rooted to the ground, and a murderous expression flashed across her eyes as she looked at Li Jingwen, who rushed to her. "Is that fellow dumbstruck from the shock?" The Blue Cloud Peak disciples could not help but snicker when they saw that Yi Qingtang did not move an inch. As long as Yi Qingtang was grazed by the Cold Winter Sword aura, she would definitely be injured by the bitter poison. This was simply a battle without any suspense. Chapter 752, Beaten Up, 3. In the blink of an eye, the sword in Li Jingwen's hand was pierced right towards Yi Qingtang's chest. It was at this instant when everyone felt that Yi Qingtang would die without a doubt. However, when the tip of Li Jingwen's blade was half a finger away from Yi Qingtang's chest, it suddenly stopped. Li Jingwen looked in shock at Yi Qingtang, who lifted a hand up since God knows when. That fair palm held on the sharp blade steadily and directly stopped that powerful charging stance. An expression of shock flashed across Li Jingwen's eyes. He could not even see clearly when Yi Qingtang raised her hand just now. Cold Winter Sword aura? Yi Qingtang watched the blue-colored sword aura slowly seep past her hand which held onto the sword. The next second after Yi Qingtang finished her sentence, a golden flame suddenly started burning in her hands. In just a moment, that striking golden flame slowly spread to Li Jingwen's sword, and the faint blue-colored sword aura was swallowed by that flame almost instantly. The sword, which initially had a slight coldness, was, however, burnt by that golden flame. The heat directly transmitted to Li Jingwen's hand that wielded the sword, and the burning heat caused Li Jingwen's expression to change. Yi Qingtang looked up slowly at Li Jingwen, and the corners of her lips curled into a devilish smile. The approaching cold winter still can't beat the heat of a burning flame. What? Li Jingwen was taken aback. Yi Qingtang's smile deepened. Suddenly, she blew the golden flame up by multiple times, and it was as though the golden flame wanted to engulf everything in the surroundings. The blade she gripped was instantly burnt red by that golden flame. Under the high heat, Li Jingwen's right hand was burnt, and he violently released the sword handle. In the next second, the sword that Li Jingwen dropped down burnt until it melted in Yi Qingtang's hands. Drops of red molten iron dripped near Yi Qingtang's feet and entered the soil, where smoke emerged. How can it be? The excited Blue Cloud Peak disciples were dumbfounded when they saw that the sword was completely burnt. The sword in Li Jingwen's hand was personally bestowed to him by Blue Cloud Peak's Peak Master and was made with a superior grade meteoric iron. It could be said to be unbreakable and extremely durable. Yet now, that sword was burnt into a pool of molten iron. Astonishment was written in Li Jingwen's eyes as he looked down at his right hand which held the sword just now. Although he did release his grip in time, his palm was still injured by that golden flame, and pain from the burns spread out in his palm. Blue Cloud Peak's top disciple is merely like that. Now, it's my turn to make a move. Yi Qingtang looked up, and the smile on her face was increasingly sinister. Li Jingwen was alarmed. For some reason, an intense uneasiness snowballed in his heart wildly. Before Li Jingwen returned to his senses, Yi Qingtang had already disappeared before everyone without a trace. Li Jingwen was alarmed and instinctively stirred up all the primordial qi in his body. However, all of this was a futile resist. Yi Qingtang's figure suddenly appeared behind Li Jingwen like a ghost. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.